Hey, sorry, I'm like watching the Zoom also, or the YouTube stream also, um, so I can watch that. I was like, my neck looks weird.
What's going on?
How much? Been a kind of a busy day, but that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So
Me too.
I was streaming for a while, so I wasn't able to like really keep up in the chat. I was trying to skim it here at the end. So it's looks like there's going to be a decent amount of people. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, I think a couple of people are going to be joining a little bit later.
Okay. Was there like a estimation on how many confirmations there were, just so I kind of know like how far away?
I think I saw either 6 or 7.
Okay. We'll give it a little time then. So how was your guys' day?
Crazy. I was supposed to have half day off, and I did, but it just got away from me, and here I am. Yeah.
Yeah. I wasted half the day dealing with something that I shouldn't have to deal with. So I still have the rest of my day's worth of work to do tomorrow.
No fun.
No.
But I did manage to get some painting in, so.
Nice.
Activity's good.
Yeah.
What are you painting?
The Dream Project.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Looks like a Toxic Avenger Mando.
Yeah, it's so it's supposed to be an homage to the Polish Boba Fett bootlegs. So it's got a Boba Fett torso and head and jetpack, and then it's got biker scout arms and legs, but it's from the modern 95 line instead of the original Kenner line.
Okay,
that's cool. Nice.
Yeah, I'll have more details up. I'm working on trying to figure out how to word the post and all that other stuff, so that'll be forthcoming pretty soon.
It'd be kind of cool to have whether it's I don't know, something editable like another Google Doc or something where you or anyone who wants to that knows about it can like put information about these various bootlegs, and whether there's like links to sites you can read about them, or like pics you have or ones you have that you can photograph and add photos, because like a lot of stuff I don't know anything about it, so I only learn about it through like you or anyone else who posts it and talks about it.
Yeah, there's quite a bit online, and actually there's a guy in Poland who is putting together a book of all the Polish Star Wars bootlegs, and it's actually the second version of the book. I actually threw in some money in the hat on the Kickstarter to kind of help fund it a little bit, just because I'm fascinated with all the Polish bootlegs. But yeah, so I'm trying to do my best with this homage. I've got a couple releases in mind. So the Polish bootlegs, they were all, the first couple releases were non-articulated. So there was no articulation whatsoever. It was a solid piece of rubber essentially with minimal paint. And so that's what these are here. This is the first release. They're not articulated. Everything's glued together and it's got minimal paint. So with subsequent releases, I'll include a little articulation. I'll improve the paint. I'll even improve the casts as I go on. But for the first release, they're basically nice to look at.
Nice. I was thinking something like, whether it's not just the Polish ones, but just from all over the world, because there's so many different niche bootlegs and products that maybe only one or two people in like the community know about, and it'd be kind of a fun little resource to have, instead of having to like spend hours on Google looking all this stuff up yourself and you like first learn about it. And,
right. Yeah.
So yeah, how many more we got here? Looks like Chicken Burger Disco and Primitive Artists are supposed to be joining.
Yeah, Chicken Burger said he was going to be on a little late.
Okay. yeah, I was telling the other guys I was skimming over the chat, so I'm not quite sure like how many are committed. So I'm just kind of getting an idea of who we're waiting for. Okay, looks like what Crumbs is indirectly hosting Downer Energy, me, Burial Boba, Death and Strawberries, Chicken Burger Disco. Okay, so I guess we're just waiting on him. So I guess we can just get started. All right. So I guess we can do the usual show and tell about yourself, and then we'll jump into the topics. When do you guys want to start? Or you want me to start? Either way is fine.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm Aaron. I'm known as Nostalgia Toys. I make He-Man bootleg stuff, but I'm trying to add like more things to it, like articulation, interchangeable parts, and I'm integrating like stuff I'm sculpting myself, and so there's like some kit bashing that goes on, and so it's kind of starting off as like an homage to Motu and all the Conan Barbarian crap that I grew up with.
That's so. How many people are on this chat right now? So I can kind of figure out who's on right now.
Well, there's the 5 of us live. I know Crumbs is silent at the moment.
Okay.
So I think we will have one more person coming, but it might be a little bit.
All right, cool. Well, go ahead. Who's next?
I'll go next. Hi,
Cool.
everyone. My name's Cody, or Downer Energy. I like sculpting little art toys and working on my first figure here, first carded figure, which is pretty fun. Generally, I just make sculpted things and then put it in a pressure pot and see what happens. So that's where I'm at. So
Nice. I see you got a reptile there in the background. What is the reptile you got?
So that is Dr. Jinx. He is a bearded dragon, and he is my partner's sisters, but they moved a few times, and they were like, we just need somewhere to stash the Zard for right now. And so we are hosting Dr. Jinx here. He mostly eats blueberries and large cockroaches, and just kind of chills. He's pretty cool. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I know a lot about that. I used to have a ton of reptiles. So before I actually pursued art, I was doing a lot with reptiles. So I had like big 6-foot lizards, cousins of Komodo dragons. I had literally, you name it, I had it. And yeah, dragons were some of those that we had. It was pretty cool to see. They're great pets.
he's fun. He just chills.
Mm-hmm. Definitely does. All right, who we got next?
I guess I'll chime in. I'm Al. I'm known as Mario Boba. I currently am working on wave 3 of a mashup of Kenner Star Wars figures and little homies. It's funny we're talking about reptiles because I used to handle rattlesnakes in school. So.
Oh man! Holy cow!
So, yeah, I used to take blood and take venom from rattlesnakes. So that was fun. That was a lifetime ago. But I'm currently working on a tribute, kind of homage to Polish bootlegs. I'm working on a kind of a bootleg Boba Fett / Biker Scout. That's, like I said, an homage to the original Polish bootleg Boba Fett from the 80s.
Nice. That is super awesome. Can you?
So I'm John, Death and Strawberries, and don't really have any stuff out there yet. I've been kind of lurking and trying different things out. Currently working on a top secret project, but hopefully here next week I can start sharing some things there. And yeah, I don't know, just kind of watching.
We're on you, sir.
Who's up?
I think we're on you.
All right, cool. So I am Trevor, or known as Tragic. Everyone calls me Tragic from fighting days. I used to compete in mixed martial arts. I randomly pursued, I mean, kind of like actively like went mainstream with it to pursue art. I was painting and drawing, and a lot of people said I was good at it. Didn't really see it, but that's the typical thing that I guess maybe the self-artist doubt of what you can actually produce and then put it out in front of people and, you know, they actually enjoy it. So I started putting some things together, and I've always messed around with like, you know, little things here and there, toys and whatnot. And I've got a 4-year-old son, and we started building toys together. Well, we've got a place around, it's called McKay's. It's literally a couple miles away from our house. We go there, and they sell like used toys and stuff like that. So we started taking toys and almost shape shifting them. So we would take heads off of this and arms onto this, and like we'd create our own thing. So it was really fun and a lot of cool, you know, ness for him to, you know, kind of get into it. And then I realized there was actually different things you could do. Like you can make the, you know, the models out of resin. So that's what we're currently doing. I've actually shape shifted a model that's currently being molded right now. So hopefully by Sunday we'll be able to get that in and kind of see what comes out. But you know, other than that, I mean, I'm just kind of out here pursuing art, and you know, I'm out here to learn and meet a bunch of good people in the industry, and you know, keep it a good, healthy environment. There's a lot of people I feel like that kind of take advantage of different things in the art industry, which I was taught by, I don't know if you guys probably don't know, but Butcho Vision. If you look him up on Instagram, he's got a very nostalgic touch on different art, different paintings. He's done a lot of figures and whatnot and stuff like that. And he actually kind of got me into the figure aspect of it. I didn't even know it was possible until, you know, I actually did more research on it. I can't even remember the name of the guy that did the first molding, but or that I came across, but cool dude. Bald dude. You guys probably already know who I'm talking about. Bald dude, pretty jacked, sitting in a chair. He's got this weird ass picture on his background, his computer. But if you guys don't know, then I'm sorry. That was totally bad. But but other than that, yeah, I'm just out here to kind of have a good time, meet some people, and you know, kind of see what happens.
Cool.
All right, muted, Aaron.
My bad. Sorry. Okay. Awesome. So I guess we'll just jump into the topics. We can always, you know, feel free to interject if you guys want to pivot to something. So we'll start. So I guess the topic is maker movement. And you'd proposed that, Death and Strawberries. Do you want to give us a little bit about kind of like your definition of that, and the kind of like, you know, the impetus for like bringing it up as a topic?
Yeah. So we had, I think in the last call, or maybe it was a chat we were having or something, but there was some talk about the influence of the pandemic and like, you know, getting into different things and being exposed to more things and trying new stuff, that type of thing. So I have an addiction for like YouTube videos that are educational, and my kids call it the dad movies. Then they're like, oh no, not another dad movie type of thing. But that's where it kind of came from. So I really like I really got into a lot of like woodworking stuff and some of these makers. So like the guy from I Like to Make Stuff. I like to watch oh man, I'm spacing names now, but there's a guy in Australia, Neil Paskin, and there's a couple other ones, but they started calling themselves like makers, meaning like it's not just woodworking. They do metal stuff, or they deal with resin or all kinds of different mediums, but they're it's a lot of do-it-yourself stuff, figuring out how to do it and challenging yourself with a new project, and then trying to make something cool out of it, and a lot of them are becoming really good filmmakers out of the process too. That's a whole other side topic, but I thought it was kind of a similar thing here, maybe, at least for me. That's kind of how I stumbled into some of this, was like observing a lot of this stuff, and then I was like, man, I want to try that and see what I can do. So I was just kind of curious how everybody else came into this, and if you thought, that the maker movement, if you want to call it that or whatever, like that idea of do it yourself and figure out stuff from some YouTube videos, had an influence on where you are here and what you're doing and trying to do now.
Yeah, I remember like Make Magazine. I used to peruse that on the regular. I was like familiar with like the term, so I just kind of wanted, your thoughts and stuff on it. Yeah, if anybody wants to comment on that, like how did it influence your like interest, or did you come to making toys and anything else just kind of like spontaneously on your own, or was there like exposure to seeing other makers and then that kind of sparking an interest?
I'll go. So I originally, there's this show on Netflix, and like I always wondered what it was going to be like. Is it possible to make a toy, or like, do you have to go through Japan? Do you have to, do all these crazy things to be able to get your product imported back over here? Like, yeah, you can shoot them a design, and then, from there, then what? But I never pursued it. But I seen this Netflix documentary. I can't even remember the name of it. But it's like Toys in Our Past or Toys of Our Future, or something like that.
The toys that made us.
Yes, that's it. So I had watched that, and I was like, wow. And it was especially the He-Man one. The He-Man one, I was like, that's so badass. And it was just like these little ideas that came across from nothing to being like shambled into something. And it was so cool to see that. And I bought a bunch of toys, and I looked at myself and said, let's build something. I looked at it like Legos, and we did it, and we came out with products. And I was just like, this is awesome. Like, I'm so happy with how this turned out. Like, I would love to have this on my shelf. And, from there, my wife kind of looked at me and she goes, this is actually pretty cool. And, from there, it was kind of like a pushing point to like, okay, maybe, I draw enough, I paint enough. I'm obsessed enough with Dragon Ball Z. So like, where do I put my different touch on it from here? And from, retiring from fighting, I really haven't had an outlet. And this has kind of been the first thing that's really been like I feel like in touch with, because I'm very artistic, and, I'm very driven to see things succeed, and see different different avenues of like, these toys. There's different avenues of what you can produce. There's different roads that you can travel to, if you use this, you can counter with this or that, or, there's tons of different things. So I really like the, the options to it. But the art side of it is really the main thing that's really kind of got me into it is, I really want to express that full form.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry, I was having some audio trouble. Cool.
Yeah, you're good.
So I mean, like from where I was at, like I kind of cruised from like creative outlet to creative outlet over time. Like I was, big into photography forever. I went to art school for photography and interactive media, right? And like it was just like I've gone through in the past like decade, like just trying like different things and like moving through like different like mediums that I actually like. And like I was really most recently I was like really into video game development, and there's just this aspect of like non-immediacy to a lot of these things where it's like the end result of like what you get is so far down the road from like actually like where you start and what your like creative vision is and what you're trying to like express, right? And like with these like multimedia projects too, like you get all of this like layered shit that you have to get through to like get what you're like trying to say or what you're like actually expressing out, right? And like I always liked like desk toys, like just like blind box, like Kid Robot things. Like I had a lot of those like when I was in college and like in my first job and stuff. And so I moved like in like middle of the pandemic stuff, I had like a bunch of Amazon gift cards left over, and I was like, maybe I'll like, what does it take to like actually like get a pressure pot, like start actually casting like resin, and like what can I do with that? And I just sort of had this idea. It's like, I could just like start doing it. I had no idea. I'd never seen anyone's content. I had never seen anything. And I was like, I could just like, this is how people, I guess, like make plastic at home, which is cool. Because I'd previously looked into like, what does it take to like get something made? Right. And it's the same thing. Like you can go to AliExpress, you can find somebody who'll make you a mold. You can pay the like $500 up front for like a mold for a single run, and then get like X, then it's like 10 cents per unit after that or whatever. Right. It's super cheap. But I have like no 3D art skills. Can't do it. So I was like, just sitting down, I bought like a thing of Monster Clay, and like I've just like been sitting down and just running it through my fingers and like doing it, and like there's this really immediate like feedback that you get, and like clay is such a forgiving medium that's like so interesting to work with. You can just sit there and like work it, you can fuck up, you can do whatever you want over and over and over again. You have like infinite like time and space to work with when you like have like a ball of physicality in front of you that you're manipulating, right? And then it's like, take that, and then it's like, now I just want cool colors, right? That's all I really wanted out of it, is like I wanted to cast like clear neon shit in like it like have things that I made and have like neat colors with them. And that's like really just where it came from, right? And like that was just that desire to like, I just have ideas of things that are like in my head that I can actually render. Like I'm really not great at drawing, right? I'm not, so it comes down to like being able to hold something and manipulate it, and like until it's what I think, like even if it's unskilled, like in rendering, like I feel like I'm accomplishing something. So there's like that immediacy there, and then casting it, like I think we've talked about this before, but like I only use like super fast resins and like super fast silicones because I have like no patience with it. So like that 10-minute turnaround, like I need that 10-minute turnaround, or I'm sitting here bugging on it, So I just run through just making things, and it's interesting like coming into it, and like I started the Instagram with like nothing. I have like 300 followers now, which is kind of neat. But like zero, like from zero, and like found what was it? I just started searching like toys, like in hashtags. Then I found like people making like one-off, not like the Safubi stuff. I'm not like big on those so much. I guess what it is, like the hard plastic, I think is kinkeshi. I think it's like the term, but like it's the one-offs like that. I found like one person, I think it was that damn JDO. He's like local to where I'm at too, which was really interesting. So I found that probably because the algorithms, because of the locality, probably had something to do with it. And I was like, oh, this is neat. And I looked at his followers and just started going through. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, there's a whole community of people who do this. I had no idea. had no clue that it was even a thing. And so now here I am. So I think the pandemic, like the ability to like, I have the time to sit at home. Like I already worked remote, but like I don't even, haven't been to the store in a year, like haven't even left the house. So it's like just the time, the raw time, and looking for things to do, looking for new things, right? So I think it's all combines into that.
I think that's funny, dude. Because like in art school, I remember the smooth on guys coming and like giving a demonstration. We got to play with all that stuff, and it never clicked with me. I was a 2D guy, until very recently. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that stuff. Like, I wonder if I could get me some of that. But that's crazy.
Mario, you have any thoughts?
Does somebody else go next, or should I?
You.
All right. So, I started out as a collector, and I still am, for that matter. I am obsessed with all things Star Wars, especially Boba Fett, Jango Fett, and Mandalorian. And the way I got into this is if you don't know, there are several different color schemes for Boba Fett, but Kenner and Hasbro never made any toys that way. So I decided one day to watch some videos and watch some dudes do some repaints on some vintage figures. So I started repainting figures, and then I did a little fabrication. I painted up a Kenner Boba Fett in the holiday special, and I made him Wookiee scalps. So, and then from there I went on to Black Series and other figures, and then talking with a coworker, he was like, "Man, do you really like bootlegs?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't as a kid, but now I can appreciate the thought process that goes into it and why people make certain things." So I started looking up videos on YouTube, and I'm sure everybody's heard of the Craftsman. I've seen and watched like hundreds of his videos. Yeah. So I decided, I'm going to find a simple, easy figure that I've got and see if I can mold it and cast it. And I bought some silicone and some resin and just started going at it. I mean, failure after failure the first couple times. And eventually I settled on a resin that I liked. And unlike Downer, the resin I use, it's got a 30-minute work time and it cures in 24 hours. And that's fine with me. I've got the patience of a saint, but I do use the Moldstar 16 fast. So that's about a 30-minute set time. But anyway, so that's how I got into it. And now I'm working on wave 3 of the Barrio Boba Gang. Those mashups that I mentioned earlier of Kenner Star Wars heads on little homey bodies. And now, no matter where I go and no matter what I see, if I'm walking down the toy aisle at Target or Walmart, I'm like, man, now that's cool. How would I mold that? So now I'm walking around looking at stuff, thinking about how would I mold that and how would I cast it and would I go with what kind of articulation and can I kit bash it or should I buy it or not and that kind of stuff. So now being a collector to being a maker, I guess. And it's been fun. I've a lot of dudes on here that I've met and I've only started, doing this since August of last year. So I'm only a couple months in. But a lot of guys on here are really helpful, really willing to, answer questions, to give guidance and all that stuff. And it's been fun. And I plan on making more stuff.
Awesome. For myself, when I was probably in my late teens, I was reading comics and, into sci-fi and fantasy, like, you guys probably all were at some point. And I had, figures, and I was like, I liked the idea of turning a character that I created into a 3D thing, right? Like something you could hold in your hand. So I started customizing figures, and I was like, thought about, what would it be like to make something on my own? Well, to have it made. And I didn't have a lot of money growing up, and I still don't have a lot of money because, life choices. And so to take it from the maker point of view, I kind of became interested in maker stuff early because I've always approached projects from the perspective of I have no money, so if I want to do this, I have to do it myself, right? And like whatever that entails. Sure, you're going to invest money, but it's like less. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's less risky, but so that's how I approached it. And I think even though I'm a designer, I've always been artistic, illustrated since I was a kid. That I definitely could have been an engineer because I think that's the only other place I could have gone into and been satisfied because it's still kind of creative. And I didn't go to art school. I went to a shitty tech school. And so I kind of just I came to this stuff on my own. And I've been trying to make stuff for a long time. And it's finally kind of materialized in the last couple of years, as it seems to have been with a lot of people. So I just have always kind of went the DIY route with everything. And I've always liked thinking about how things work. So I was like the kid who took my toys apart, took apart my Jetfire, and so I got into UX design because I got out of like I don't want to design websites and ads. I want to just think about like how does this work and how would someone use it. And so that's also trickled into like the way that I'm approaching toys is like, how could someone use this other than just put it on a shelf? So I have to like, some of the interchangeable parts and whatever. And so I'm taking it to like a stupid level, stupid complexity. But I don't know, it's also fun because like it's that journey of like Barry was saying, can I do this and how would I do it? While also doing like what Cody had said about infusing like your own creativity into it, and or was it tragic? Sorry, but so I kind of like am taking elements from kind of each of how you guys are approaching it, and I just kind of put it into something. But cool. It's fun to see how everyone kind of got into the craft.
I feel like I like the DIY stuff too, because like you say, you get to infuse your own creativity, right? So like even like anything that I'm doing, like if I build a bench at the house, like it has to be like I like draw it out. I have diagrams and like find the best way to use the space, and like all those type of things. Like I never leave anything alone. Like my truck, I have to like add stuff on and customize things or whatever, dude. Like I've always my mom used to call me manitas, like little hands, because my hands were always going. Like I always had to do something. And I think that's another part of it, is just like my brain doesn't stop and I have to like try to improve something along the way. And so that usually means like figuring out how it works, figuring out how to do it myself, and just playing with it.
Nice. And a new challenger has entered the ring. Welcome. Would you mind introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll take your thoughts on the question we just asked. The rest of the group.
Sure, yeah. And I didn't hear that. Can you hear me at all? Okay, good. All right, I won't play for too long. I thought there was no reason why I shouldn't show up like this, right?
That's true.
So
The correct entrance.
Do it proper and then just get off as soon as possible. So yeah, just a normal guy with messy hair. So
disappointed.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, look, I look just like all you also. It's all the same. So yeah, right on, guys. Hey, how's it going?
I thought that was going to be a burner under the mask.
Oh man, would that be great? Like if I had a mask under the mask, so you just keep it going. That's a pretty big jerk move. Yeah. Okay. So I'm new to all this, but I've been watching you guys. Not all the time live. A lot of time I have to catch it, at other times, or I didn't know it was on or something like that. So I just follow back and listen to it from YouTube or whatever. But yeah, my name is Dylan, but I go by Chicken Burger Disco. I collect toys. I make weird bootleg commercials for toys. That's essentially what I do. Weird video stuff. And then as a result of doing weird video stuff, I started learning how to make things. because I needed to make more than one, and I didn't want to buy Clawtron 20 times for whatever it's going for on eBay, $12, something like that. So I didn't want to do that. So I started learning how to make molds. And yep, so now I kind of, I'm just really interested in the bootleg toy scene and stuff like that. Kind of like, where was I for all that? Because I just think it's great. And that's pretty much it. So what was your question?
The question we just asked was, what are your thoughts on makers, and then what was your path to becoming a maker?
Well, I kind of filled you guys in on that. So I make music. I'm in a band. They're actually Twitch streaming right now, which is why I was a little late. So their 2-year Twitch anniversary. And so anyway, long story short, I make weird music and videos and stuff with those guys. And it was jokes. Because I collect toys, I wanted to make toys of them. Ha ha ha. Isn't that funny? And so I did that, and that kind of spawned a series of like other shorts and other skits. And then from there, it's kind of just this thing I'm doing now. I don't know, like just sort of winging it. So yeah, I like, I know I'm sorry I came late, and so that's rude, but I follow all you guys, I think. So all you guys' stuff that you're making is amazing, or the process of making, right? It's like some of you guys are like showing all the insane matrix molds that are being done. Like, wow. So I'm learning from you, whether you know it or not. I'm seeing those Instagram posts and going like, oh, so that's how you do that. Huh, cool. So respect to all you guys. It's very cool.
Let's see. So a lot of this was put together by Death and Strawberries. So I'm trying to pick out the things that seem to be like the good topics to move on. Why do you think people are wanting handcrafted items? Is there a correlation with the quality of mass market toys aimed at kids, and collectibles versus toys? Is it a bubble?
Oh man, I have thoughts on that one. I honestly think that the hand goods, like the handmade product, like sphere entirely, is actually more of like if you were an up and coming youth in the early 2010s, there's this term called hipster, right? And like it's an older term, but it had a very specific meaning of that time. And I think like a lot of that like hipster mentality has like bled out, but that I think the core of that like stereotype is like this draw for arbitrary authenticity, right? Like people have like an innate want to approach as like being as authentic as possible in their like consumption experience, right? And so like toys, like mass market toys, are like cool, but like when you're an adult, like yeah, you can go into a Target and pay $10. Like it's like that. I bought like a Fortnite figure to pull a gun out of it. Like it literally cost me $10, and I have no attachment to it. I do not care. I've never used Fortnite. I just wanted the gun, right? And like it's like that's like the whole like all of it. It's like it's definitely for kids. It's definitely like for thing, but like that consumption aspect is like totally inauthentic, right? It's weird. It's disconnected. You're just consuming. I know we like Star Wars, and I like Star Wars and like Marvel, but like there's something to be said about purchasing a toy from like a literal billion-dollar franchise, right? It's kind of weird when like the idea is that you want to have it and like display it and look at it, right? Like you're just participating in this marketing event, right? As opposed to going on Instagram and you can see someone's very neat sculpture work that they've done, or very cool 3D work that they've printed and like put in lots of like crafting time and effort and process into like developing this thing, which lends it authenticity through that process, right? And so once that authenticity has been imbued in that object, to me, like the quality of the object almost is irrelevant. It's more of like that you're purchasing the story, the whole thing. And I think it's someone's effort that they put into like branding it, packaging it, their social media stuff, right? All of that contributes to like a cool little like this little thing that's like just a piece of plastic, but like there's a whole story that's with it that's like intrinsic to the item. And I think that's whatever the question was. Yes.
Yeah, I think too, like, you're just like you say, that mass market thing. Like we've kind of become, at least myself, I've become just numb to that stuff, and it's like kind of like you're saying, like I'm just drawn to things that are actually handcrafted and more like real. I don't know, like you say, you can connect an artist to it, and you almost collect it like a piece of art, where it's like where that came from, and you start like wanting. I have some of the earlier work, and then you can see the progression, and that type of thing. But I wonder if it's like connected a little bit to like this like digital stuff. Everything's digital, virtual, especially the pandemic. Everybody's been like locked down and like stuck alone in a room watching YouTube or Netflix or something. And this is like, at least for me, this has been really cool talking to you guys. I have a little bit of that connection back, and like we can mail things back and forth to each other, and like there's a real object you're touching. That's maybe that's something that people are craving more.
Also, I have a small addition, and you asked about a bubble. I don't know if it's a bubble, because a bubble implies that people are making good money in it, and there's something to be made. And I think the only people making money here are Smooth On. So,
man, is that true?
Yeah,
Holy
totally.
cow. Yeah. So, like, does anybody else have problems getting Smooth On? I know you can try to get massive quantities from them, but then the shipping from Smooth On themselves, twice with the massive quantity that you were trying to purchase is, right? Okay, so I spent 150 or 180 bucks on a bucket of silicone. That's going to cost $300 to show up to my house. Holy cow. Okay, I'll go to eBay. But even at eBay, now I'm paying, in a weird way, we're kind of like toy buyers, but for raw products.
Yeah.
Because we're going to eBay like other people would go for whatever Marvel figure or whatever Star Wars figure. And then we're going, okay, the trial size is 60 bucks now. This was 48 2 months ago, and I know there's been some changes where are causing price going up, but at the same time, like it's definitely Smooth On. How cool is that for them to just sit back and have done nothing and just everybody just start throwing money at them, this whole new market that they have. So
if we go back, if we go to that, the question about collector versus a maker or whatever. So as I mentioned, I'm a Boba Fett collector, and the market for Boba Fett items, thanks to The Mandalorian, has gone nuts.
Crazy.
So, as I mentioned, I was always looking for original Kenner figures from '79, and specifically looking for beaters. Yeah. So looking for beat up Kenner figures. And 2 years ago, you could get a beater for $10. I tried to bid on a beater today, and I was only willing to pay $15, and it went for almost 20. Paint was gone, the looms were loose, the limbs were loose, a total junk figure. So that, again, and then I think Crumbs and I had a discussion one time, and I think even with Yucko about, taking these vintage figures and basically wrecking them or destroying them by customizing or changing them up. So that kind of pointed me in the maker direction too. Like somebody said, I don't want to buy 20 Boba Fetts. If I can just buy one, now I can mold it and cast it. Now I can make infinite, number of figures or whatever. So yeah, so it's one of those where like I wish they, big companies would make the stuff I like, but they don't. So then I'll have to make it myself, and that's what I've been doing.
What about like this though?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So like this is going back the other direction, right? Isn't that dope?
Yeah. That's a great figure. It hits on so many levels. It's Star Wars. It's Masters of the Universe. It's Dungeons and Dragons. It's all of that, and I think it's a great. It's a great figure. I've got one.
Yeah, I don't have like every colorway or everything like that, but this one particular colorway is just, I don't know, it just stuck out to me as being really cool. I think it's still cheap though, because what happens, like these things show up as $18 on Super 7, right? Yeah. Give it a month. As soon as they sell out that run, they're not $18 anymore. Just like your boba, straight up the roof, you know.
I
It's
actually have
weird.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
real question about Super 7. I've interacted with that once ever, and that was to purchase a They Live like ghoul figure
Yeah.
that I tore apart. I've never heard of them. I found them looking through like what is are there actually licensed products like short run, and then they just like a I don't want like a Beanie Baby sort of thing where it's a collector's item that they produce like in mass to sell out for a limited time, or what's the
I
story
think
there?
they started as a magazine, as a retro magazine. Because I remember seeing Super 7. I used to go to like Borders and hang out and doodle in my sketchbook and look at magazines and stuff. And there was always a Super 7 issue, and it was like just about, you know, whatever retro shit was going on. And so I feel like it just, I don't know the history, but that's where I first was exposed to like that company. And I posted that WonderCon at Home interview, which is very much like this, but it was all indie toy makers on a different level, like above us, but not big companies. And so Super 7, one of the guys, the CEO, I don't know, was on the panel. And so he's talking about their licenses and whatnot. So like, you know, that's significant. So it was like him, I guess the Fwoosh makes figures now.
Yeah, articulated icons. They're amazing, actually.
I Am Elemental was on there, and a couple others that I hadn't heard of before. And so they were like, we're indie toy makers. And I guess it was like the AliExpress thing, right? We're going to source with a company in Taiwan or China to make these things and blah, blah. Yeah.
Well, that was interesting that the Super 7 guy was talking about how he started with the magazine, and then they were making small figures to like give away with the magazine. And that's how he started. And
That's
then they
cool.
became very popular. Yeah. And then they started making figures that they would sell, and then it kind of grew and grew, and they started getting licenses and whatever. Yeah, it was a pretty interesting interview. I really liked watching that one.
Do you guys source them for parts? So this is actually how I discovered toy bootlegging, because I was looking for I needed to make a minion type character. And so I needed a skull head. So I'm looking around for 3 3/4 inch type size heads. And I knew the company made basically novelty figures, right? Their reaction series is essentially novelties. Anything they can think of, basically they have some sort of $20 version of it. And hilarious, right? I got a Karate Kid that, you know, my wife got me, and various things like that. So I thought, okay, I spent time on eBay, and I'm looking at, you know, some of the vintage things, some of the old things, and I'm not really seeing what I want, or I'm seeing things that are like inspiring in this that were really expensive, just out of the range that I was like, nah, I don't want that. Plus it's known, right? I don't want to take something that's necessarily everyone's aware of. And so I went to Super 7 and started looking around, like typing skull, you know, whatever. And they had that series called The Worst, which are sort of like their own creations or a non-licensed type product, or just weird licenses or whatever. And I don't think the Phantom Star Killer was in that list, but it was something adjacent to it, or was on the same page somehow. And I saw it and was like, what is that? I really want. They didn't have it at the time. It was out of stock, right? And I was like, well, crap, it's out of stock. You start doing a search for, not to steal from, I just want one for my collection of nonsense. And so I start looking around trying to find them. And again, eBay, they're 40, 50 bucks. You're like, whoa, why is this super expensive? And what's the deal with it? And that's when I started to see toy bootlegging stuff and started to go put one and one together and go, this is a whole thing. I didn't know anything about this. And back to Cody's thing here, Downer's thing, how freaking cool is it that, you know, me, I just went, that they took this thing that I really love, which is the sculpture of a figure with, you know, fangs or eyes that are popped out or weird or whatever. People are taking that idea and not just improving their Captain America, or not just improving their Star Wars figure to have the right colored lightsaber, for crying out loud. No, they're not just doing that. They went completely on their own and went, I'm going to create this mashup of all these things. And me, who likes that kind of thing, remix culture type thing. I went, oh my God, like, is that the greatest thing I've ever seen? Like, and then, you just I just get obsessed with it. Right. So, and what it does is Aaron, you brought up something like when you said like the whoosh, right? So Robo, I love that guy. I watch this show every week, collect the toys that those guys were making. But part of why I collected this was because this was a person that I was watching, right? They made a mass-produced product, but now the door kicked open, and it's not a guy making some sort of mass-produced product. It's people making one at a time or making 10 or whatever. And I think I want that just because it's so much, there's something about it that's so special. Not a thing that, I can't find the mass market toy at Target anyway, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to compete for something, if I want something cool, why don't I just start buying the thing that, like, there's only 10 of those? And not only is there only 10, I can DM that guy and go, hey, you made that crazy figure. Do you have another one that's got air bubbles in it that you're just laying around? I'll pay for it. And it changes the whole game. Like, cause then like you're getting cooler stuff in your collection. And nobody cares about my collection but me, but that collection of weird crap is like, I work down here now because I work from home. And so I just stare at it all day, And so like, it just brings the worst part of a day. I'm looking at that junk and going, when I die, I don't know what's going to happen to it. It's a garage sale. But for now, that weird pile of crap is like every single day, it keeps the humanness in there a little bit. It reminds me like, it ain't so bad, like people still making weird crap. And I think Death and Strawberries, you said this, like pandemic, stuck in a box, can't get out to see people, having a window to there's a whole nother world of people doing stuff. Like, man, I think it's got me through the entire pandemic. Now that we're starting to be at a spot where you start to come around to the other side. And I'm like, I don't know what I would have done without toys. As dumb as that sounds, that's the reality. That I was depressed right at the beginning. And this stuff started to change that. I wasn't depressed. I could look into Instagram and find it and go, and my wife doesn't want to hear it anymore, but it's amazing that it's out there. You know what I mean? So it's just cool. Just a really wide open thing.
To add to that, I couldn't agree more on that. Like, I can come home from a bad day, auto glass, okay, and that's way different than competing in professional mixed martial arts. It's way different. And going through dealing with customers, having bad jobs and like just bad things and like terrible vehicles that are rusted out. It's rough. And, I come home and I see my Dragon Ball Z statues. I see statues I've built. I've seen things that I put time into with my son. Those are things that, that they bring me joy. And, I couldn't agree more with you on that. Like, that's like, it's a peaceful thing. And, honestly, like, to think like, it's so memorable to us and like what it means to us. But then it's like, where does that go when I'm gone? I completely agree with you 1,000%. It's like, like those little things, like, what does it do? Does it go with me, or like, I'd be all right with that, but hey,
Here's my dream. When I was young, an older gentleman passed away on my block, and they were cleaning out his house. And one of the things they did is he had tons and tons of vinyl records, and they put them all on the curb. They finished moving, they drive away. Those records sat on the curb. So me and a friend went, all right. So we went and grabbed all those records and came in and started putting them on the turntable, right? It's Lawrence Welk. It's stuff that, is corny or cheesy or whatever. But something happened when I was listening to all those records, because it wasn't just like the thought of a dude I never knew who owned all these records, but there was some about this being a collection of things that like I totally like bonded with in the weirdest way ever, right? And I hope that's what my wife does. She puts them on the curb and some kid finds them and goes like, this is cool. What is this guy? You know? And then he's in his backyard with mud and he's building play sets, and the fake bootleg commercials I make, he's actually doing that. And it's not just me making up junk. He's really doing it. So maybe if I get really old and I know it's time to kick off, I go like donate them, and hopefully somebody puts them in a real, you know what I mean? It brings them back to life, real life.
For sure.
I have a quick thing on that, and I know one of the things Crum suggested at some point was like pricing as a topic, was like a stand-in top like thing, and not to get into pricing, but the idea that like, I mean, I basically sell my pieces at like cost. Like I don't, there's not anything that's going into these. Like I pick the closest jokey number that I can find to it, right, and like we sell it at the closest thing to like cost that I can, right? And it's like the idea is very similar to like just giving it out to the neighborhood, right? It's that like I just want people to have these. I want these to be in people's hands like as quickly as possible, because the idea that you're like distributing that and like whatever small amount of joy, like I put a lot of effort in mine into like the packaging and opening experience, because to me that's like the cool part, because I used to really like blind boxes. That was like the fun thing for me. It's like that. It's like opening. I mean, I've played Magic since I was a kid, so I'm like very inbuilt into like cracking packs and like having just like it's loot boxes now, right? So like getting things into people's hands, like having that opening experience, and then just having it sit on a shelf and like just hang out, but is like part of someone's everyday life, is like that's the really cool part to me, right? You don't even have to play with it. My stuff's like mostly like I think firmly in the art toy category, where you're not going to get a whole lot of play out of like a little dude that's flagellating himself or something, right? Like he's just going to chill on your desk, but it's cool nonetheless that it's there in your house. To me, at least, like that's what I want. I want that stuff to be in people's houses, right? So just at close to not quite dying and giving it to everyone, but like
why did I go there?
Yeah. Just selling off pieces of the art to people, I think is actually a meaningful experience to me, in the same vein, right? Where it's like you're just getting it in people's hands.
I feel like that's like a really that's like an experience for us to experience. Like, I haven't experienced it yet. Like, that's why I was like literally just trying to give stuff away, because like, you know, I did that. I don't know if you guys seen earlier. I kind of did that little giveaway earlier that I was just like, first person who comments, I'm going to send you something for free. You know, I just want to give something to be able to like, you know, add to somebody's collection, you know, even if they don't really like it, but they know somebody that does, or like, you know, being able to ship out one of my items that I personally made to maybe make somebody happy, you know, that's a whole nother level of high. I mean, it's amazing. It's just an amazing thing. Coming home from work, like literally the past, I would say 2 weeks, ever since I've stumbled upon, you know, Barrio Boba, you know, I stumbled across your page, and then I came across a couple others, and I could not believe there was something out there like that I could channel what I had an idea for, but where and kind of what direction I was going to put it is kind of what I'm doing now. But, you know, for figuring out that there was actually something out there that I could do. And, you know, you guys have all been pretty good with like different ideas. I mean, everyone on here, I mean, comes from honestly, a really different perspective. Everyone's got a different thought on different creations and different things. And you guys are all fucking brilliant. Absolutely fucking brilliant. And, you know, I love seeing all that work, and it's really motivating. It's motivating for me. It's like, you know, I see some of you guys posting shit, and I'm just like, all right, I got to think of something new. Like, all right, I got to think of something. I got to critique like one of my ideas. I gotta get something together. You know what I mean? But like, you guys are all fucking brilliant. And, I think all of us together, we feed off each other, and it really brings back to the community to really make something special. Hence, these little guys that we're sending off to people to, try and make happy. So
I was talking to Epoxy Crusader the other day too, and
yeah,
he made 10 McDeLoreans and had them for sale, but he put the caveat, or I'll trade you for one of your own figures, which I thought was super cool. And I was like, I'll gladly pay you, but he's like, I'd rather have one of your figures. And I'm like, I don't really make a figure. So that's what I've been doing for the past week, is just like, I got to make him something cool. And like, I just like set to it. And like, it's been so inspiring just to like try and create something for someone here in this community. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Like he said the same thing to me. Like, I was like, hey, you want it? Like, where am I shipping this to? Like, I've got it ready to go. And he's like, well, how about I'll just send you something to trade? I'm like, wait, what? So I was just like, okay, like, yeah, I love adding art to, my shelves, and, adding that to what I get to look at every day. And he was just like, yeah, I'll just send you something. I'm like, all right, here's my address. So who knows what I'm going to get, but hey, I'm happy with it. So I can't complain.
Best moment is you go to the mail place, and if you're talking to a physical person and you're not just doing it and dropping it in a box, right? And they'll say they're trying to quantify the value of the box. They say, "What's in here?" This is my favorite moment, because I go, "Toys." You know what I mean? And it's just like, I love that moment. Just give it to me every time, because like there was this time period for a second where maybe I might have been ashamed of that. But that's gone. And now it's the opposite. I just want to go like, you guys know what's in this box? You're shipping whatever that is. This is rad right here. Awesome. And I think I cut somebody off, but
I was going to say, I had the, Epoxy Crusader, go.
Oh, sorry, man. Go ahead.
Did he freeze? Did I freeze?
No, go ahead. Can you hear me? Sorry for the delay. I just want to add about something about what Tragic and Beth and Strawberry is saying, because I've been trying to make trades with them, and what I was saying to them is that the most significant part of all this whole process of making figures, aside from the process of making it as well, is knowing each one of you guys, because even though we doesn't met like in the physical world, having to trade something is like knowing somebody by the likes of the things they like. So that's why I was trying to say to Tragic that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter not in the bad ways. I'd be happy to receive anything he wants to send to me, because that way I'll get to know him in some sort of way. Right. And I was thinking to Beth and Strawberries too a couple of hours ago, and we went from talking about the things we're going to send each one, to discovering each one likes in music. So then I discovered him to be a guitar player, and he's a fireman. So it's been amazing. Get to know each one of you, from the things you like to collect, from the things you like to do, and by the things you thought to be likely to somebody else. And for me, that's amazing. Mostly because of this, putting aside the pandemic and all the things, sometimes you get to know people who's near you, it's from your neighborhood, even from your country. But for me, especially being in another whole country, a very different country, it's amazing to get to chat with you guys, to learn from you, to know the things you like, and to see also this community that that's not so far away from the things I do like to or want to do. So that's for me, that's the whole value of all those things. I also have this favorite moment when I go to the mail post office, because as Chicken Burger Disco said, I always need to say, I'm going to send some toys to somebody. And the guy from the postal office always says, toys? And yeah, toys, like flea market toys, whatever. And he's more interested in what's the size and the weight of the box than to actually see the things that goes inside, that for me are treasure, and hope that the guy who received it treasure it just the way I thought they would be treasured. So for me, that's the whole value, aside from the price of the thing itself, being able to trade, being able to communicate, being able to chat and to learn from everybody. It's priceless. For me, it's priceless.
I absolutely love that, man. Like, I've been in so many different and varied like artist communities, like from, like, I think, one of the worst is like music. And it's an interesting thing when you're in like a scene in music and like everyone's doing their thing, and like everyone's really clandestine, and like maybe you jam with another band or whatever, but like everyone's really kind of closed off as to what they're working on, because nobody wants people to like encroach on their space. I feel like it's very closed, right? And I've worked in like in art game development and stuff too, and it's like the same thing. People do shader work that's like very interesting, but then nobody wants to talk about what they've done or share what they're doing. And to me, like, what's really always like the healthiest thing about an artist community that I found is like people willing to share, and then people that are just excited for other people's success and delivery of their thing, right? Like, I want other people's figures simply because those people have worked on them. I actually don't care about the content so much, right? Like, if Aaron drops something really cool, I'll probably be the first one in line to like try and buy it, because like, even though I'm very disconnected from like Master of the Universe, I've never had a Master of the Universe toy like physically. It's awesome. What I think he does is awesome, right? Just like everyone here, right? All these things are so cool, and all the people working on them are very cool and very willing to work with other people and like share, and that mind share and that like ability and willingness to actually like contribute to the community and bring everybody up with it is like, that's the healthiest and best part of like any, like, that you could ever ask for out of like an artist community. And it's really incredible. It's really interesting, because like I feel like it's closer to like a music analogy, like in like a punk rock sort of thing, where it's like there's nothing intrinsically very technically crazy going on at the end of the day. It's very systematic, right? But the idea that everybody can work together to like actually participate in it and like bring everybody up, and it's bootleg, it's all, like half the shit that I have is unlicensed, like, when like none of that is legitimate in the eyes of like the world, right? But the idea that everyone's doing it anyways, and everyone's bringing everyone up because you live in this like underground community of it, is like, it's awesome. It's awesome. Like,
what's the interesting thing though is when I started following toy makers on Instagram 5-7 years ago, it wasn't like that. A lot of the people who are bigger now, I'm not necessarily going to call anyone out because like that's shitty, but there was a very large reluctance to share information. Nobody posted pictures of their molds. You only saw finished products. If you ask questions, you get silence. When I started posting stuff, like, because if you go way back into my feed, there's like all my earliest stuff, and it's like total garbage, right? When I didn't know what I was doing. And so I would like ask people questions, and then I would get people coming onto my photos and like not straight up ridiculing what I was doing, but like not being very supportive. So to see that all kind of flip on its head, and in the last couple of years, this culture of like everyone's very like transparent and helpful, and try this material, do this, get a pressure pop, do this with it, like, to like facilitate people making things. Just like Cody said, we're all just pushing clay and shit around, right? Like, so it's not about like the materials that you're using, because every painter just pushes paint around, like, but it's like that person's individual vision that's what you're getting. Like the paint and shit is irrelevant, you know. So
Right. Everyone's got the product, but it's the mind that creates the image that's perceived by everyone else. You know, everyone's going to have their own take on that little piece of what you created, but it all started with you. And that's what I really appreciate about it. Like, you know, a painting, you know, for me, it was great, but it wasn't enough. You know, it wasn't hands-on enough. I mean, I don't want to offend any painters on here if there's any painters on here, but you know, just it wasn't enough for me. And like I could paint a picture, I could have fun with it, but it just wasn't enough. Now, like I started doing like some of these right here, these buildable things, like these Kinetics, like entry grade. I don't even know what the hell they are.
It's like
I bought
Gunpla.
What's that?
I said it's like a, what is it, Gunpla, the like Gundam building where you like are,
Yeah,
like, that's the whole part of it.
Kind of like that, but the Gundam ones, holy shit, they're hard, man. They're
People
like
go hard on those.
yeah,
holy shit. I built one the other day. I built the regular Gundam one, and I was like, why am I doing this again? And like I'm 150 pieces in, there's like 600 pieces, and I'm like, okay, why'd I buy this? But like, you know, like all the Vegeta, the Gokus, you know, all the Dragon Ball Z stuff, like I said, I'm a huge fan of it. So like for me, obviously that's like half the size. So I was like, okay, this is great. And then you know, building the toys though were really the best thing. And like epoxy, before I forget, this is what I'm going to be sending you. This is one of two. There's going to be two of these. This is a special gold build that we've got here. So this is a Lord Saurus. My son named him, so he is going to be going to your shelf.
we're gonna need a shot of that in the group chat. Just FYI.
What's that?
We're gonna need a shot of that in the group chat just so we can all
Hit the
get
glory
out.
shot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was gonna say I had a really good professor in my illustration program that like we had this conversation because you know in commercial art you put your stuff out there, it gets printed, and then a lot of times there's like copycats. Like so if you have something cool, then people do something similar. You know, there's this conversation like, what do you do? Somebody's copying your stuff, you know? And he's like, well, make more cool stuff. Like, you know, it's like that's you, like your voice comes out and you will always be on top of the game because it's you. It's not, you're not copying, you know? And yeah, I think that totally applies here too.
Absolutely.
It's interesting that effort though, right? I mean, I don't know how many movie buffs we have, but how many are familiar with The Asylum? Like in all their shitty knockoff movies, right? Where like, you know, Pacific Rim's gonna come out in theater in the summer, and they have Atlantic Rim out like the same month, like that they put the trailer for Pacific Rim out, and you're just like,
That was
and
the
it's
best
the
part
shittiest
about Blockbuster was the
Yeah.
the asylum wall. That was my favorite. I would
Yeah.
live there, dude.
and it's like the schlockiest garbage, but it's like there's definitely, I've come to appreciate the shit Asylum makes. And if you haven't seen Z Nation, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like this. They knocked off The Walking Dead, but actually did it kind of better.
Not hard to do.
Yeah, seriously.
No, I think a big part of this is like, you know, there's especially when things are like new and people aren't super experienced and the knowledge isn't out there. There's a lot of like a elitism around that, right? Where it's like I've figured out something and this is what I do, and like this is really cool, and like it is really cool and people are interested, and I think people try and guard their market share on that, where they're like, no, this is something cool that I do, but like I hate that, man. I cannot stand when people are like, because the medium's out there. Smooth On Products exist. That's like 100-year-old company or whatever, right? Like they've been around. People know how to do this. Pressure pots, you can buy them off of Amazon. Like this isn't a crazy thing that you're doing, right? in general, same like paint, right? You can get pigments. You can go to you can go to Dick Blick's at on like any corner in any city and like just pick up the same stuff, right? That anyone who's making incredible things are, but like it's about like the technique and everything. It is all should be to me readily available, and like being able to talk to your fellow creators and actually do that sort of stuff and get that information is huge. And you know, you do not see it everywhere. You do not see it in like so many. I go back to music because that was like the only other space where I've put lots of time and effort into. Is it's like those spaces, especially in like your extreme metals, you know, because the people there are kind of pretentious anyways, are like it's heinous how bad those scenes are and how people are unwilling to like talk to you, share, work with you, like you listen to something, give feedback. It's weird, man. Hate it. So to have people who are willing to, who like trading, who like exploring and like sharing it, you know, being able, I see someone comment on something, hey, this mold isn't working out. And it's like, oh, I can say, hey, it's always, you know, mold star 16. That's the only answer you'll ever need. And like have a discussion with 3 other people in the comments just because they're like, oh, I use 15. And you know, like, you know, just
I
actually
use
being able to talk
15.
that stuff out.
Yeah.
It's too slow for me.
I like that slow.
But like having those conversations in public, I think is so important. And like people actually seeing those and getting that, because you want, like, to me, all this stuff is like super, this is high art, right? This is what people make when they're like at home working on things. It's like, you know, I go back, I used Pollock as an example in a lot of things because like people like to, you know, Philistines like to discount like color field abstract paintings as like there's just something that you could do. And it's like, that's not the point. It's not the point is that they took the time and the effort and the emotional release and put that all into that work. And that's the point, right? So it doesn't really matter what the outcome, the actual form that the outcome takes. Like that's not the important part. It's the fact that somebody did do that and then like is sharing it with the world, right? Because all people, you know, like you can do that. People do that. Like we talk about Magic a lot, right? You can take that same creative release and put it into like a commander deck, and it doesn't have a huge amount of like reach, right? It has your local play group, and you can see it's very fun. I have friends that I know simply for their very creative like Magic play style, and you know, some of my best friends, and it's like it's very interesting to me that that's how they get out. But like just being able to express that is very cool. And then beyond that, the coolest part is actually trying to bring other people into that fold to be like, hey, you can express exactly the same way with very like just like listen, this is exactly how you do it. I'm an open book, right? I think so many people in this community are an open book that want people to be able to express in the same way because it builds up the whole community, you know.
But like
that's
what's interesting, right? You get all the people doing the exact same project. They don't come out with the exact same thing at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's fascinating.
Take it to painting, right? If you've ever gone to a museum, and this has happened to be very seldom, but you go to a museum, there's lots of cool things on the walls, but you find that one where you go like, that, what? You know what I mean? And it grabs you, right? It's the failure of people who are unable to share or unwilling to share. Let's say they're in a music scene. They want that, they've got their craft and their sound. They don't want anybody to steal it. The thing is, everyone can steal that. You didn't make anything, right? You didn't invent the piano. You didn't invent the guitar. Everyone can do these things. What you're trying to do is find an audience that when they see or hear that, they stop. And whether it's scribbles on paper or it's paintings on a toy, if someone stops and goes, huh, that thing, everyone has the capacity to do that. That's what's freaking dope about it. So when people try to insulate it or protect it or stop it, and this isn't just us, let's see, it's not just toy makers, corporations trying to prevent that from happening. Whoa. We thought of Boba Fett. You can't take our Boba Fett and change the colors on him. How dare you change the colors on Boba Fett? But when you change the colors on Boba Fett, it's different now. Sure, it's still the base form, but what we did was you said, it's like walking into a museum, there's a black bar on the paper. Yeah, everybody can paint the black bar, but when I did the black bar in this context this way, that's a whole new thing. Same thing with Boba. You take that and go, look, now he's green with this color and silver. Sure, we all recognize the icon, but the style, that's the thing that's different. That's the thing that unfortunately, folks want to try to control. right?
Yep.
They want to try to preserve, oh, you can't steal. And I think you said it earlier, Cody, is like, if you just roll with your thing, or no, maybe it was Death and Strawberries, you just roll with your thing, they can't follow you because you're going to swerve, they're going to zig, or try to predict your move, and you're going to zig when they think you're going to zag, and you just on to the next thing. I got a friend who's, really into painting, and he was painting like Star Wars stuff, right? Folk art style, people loving it at conventions and things like that. Everybody's buying his stuff. And he started to feel like other people at tables close by that he knew were starting to cop some of his lines, right? Oh, they're starting to try to copy this way that I'm doing this or that or the other. Well, he was kind of bored of Star Wars. So he went, I'm going to do Power Rangers, man. I'm just going to paint Power Rangers for a week or two. And so the next time he shows up with all this Power Ranger stuff, and everybody's sitting here at these other tables with the Star Wars stuff that maybe they were trying to go like, oh, he did Boba Fett, I'll do Boba Fett, and I'll do the same kind of colors. Maybe I'll sell too. And now he's over here with Power Rangers, and they're like, Power Rangers, what are you talking about? And then he sells out. And they're like, whoops. The next week they show up with Power Rangers. Oh, I'm on Power Rangers too. Well, now he's on Zilla, right? Now I'm into Toku. I'm crazy. And now I'm on Kakaider, and you can't follow me when I'm down this road. And so like, that's when people get scared that people are going to steal their thing. They're not going inside and going like, they're worried they're going to run out of the mojo. Yeah, you'll run out, maybe. So what? Like, you make one good thing one time, just, replicate that forever. But if you go inside, you can't be scared of everybody else around you. Like, that's just dumb. But, it happens.
Right.
It's all about the honest expression, right? Like,
Right.
it's like what it comes from. It's like, if you're honest in like your expressiveness, and you're honest in what you're doing to yourself, like, right, you look and say, this is what I want to make, and this is why I'm making it, because I want to. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody makes the exact same thing. Like, to you, like, to me, art, like the expression is freedom, right? Like, there's no reason to hold on to it, because you are literally, the intent is to take something and put it into the universe, like put it out to the world and like have it out there. And if you're not willing to do that, if you want to guard any portion of it, like, I don't think that's an honest expression of like what you're doing.
You might want money, right? Yeah. And I think we're all in that spot. We're going, money, if I take it out of the equation, you said this, like, you're probably breaking even. I was doing the current project I'm working on that I want to do for my friends. I was doing, okay, so the silicon's going to run me $300 and the resin's going to run me right around there. And then the card backs is another 100, plus whatever this sticker part that I want to throw, I want to put stickers in it, plus whatever that is, plus the blisters, plus all this. And I'm like, and then if I just donate the time, okay, if I sell all these for $50 a piece, right, I break even with zero time recoup, right? Just the materials cost. The question is, and this is for a different kind of person, but do I still do that if I think, well, I'm not making anything on it? Different people are going to make different decisions. Me, I just want that dumbass thing out. Like everybody was saying before, I just want somebody, I got to get that thing out of me so that it's out there. And then somebody, goes like, I want one of those. That's all. And so the wasted money is, what was I going to do with it anyway? Buy other toys.
It's cost of materials for painting, right? It's the same thing.
Right.
Like, it's all it is.
I feel like the withholding thing, like the secrecy, is like, I'm gonna go like way off topic here for a second. But I feel like we're talking about music and art and whatnot, that there's those people who are like, this is mine, it's a secret, you can't see it. Like they're living that I'm a temporarily embarrassed millionaire. Like I'm gonna get famous off this, and I don't want you to steal it, so you get famous first. Because like people like, people think of, like, our parents think of art like you're either a Van Gogh and your stuff is worth millions, or you make garbage and nobody cares. And like that, it's a binary system for those people, right? So they're like, if I'm gonna be an artist, then that means I could potentially become ultra rich. So I think that's where the air of secrecy comes from, this fear that someone's going to encroach on their thing. But the irony of that is, like you guys were saying, is once you can't make the thing and keep it secret forever, like you eventually have to put it out there, and then once you do, everyone else sees it, and then people will be like, oh, that's cool, I want to make a version of that, or I'm going to do this. And like Dr. Strawberry said, someone could try to cop it or whatever, and then, but if you're really doing it for yourself and just to get it out there, like it's done. You're like, I'm done with that. Like, I'm not going to go back and do that thing again. Just, you want to do it, whatever, do your thing. Like like I'm going to go do this other thing.
I'm done with green. I'm doing blue now.
Yeah. I feel like it's a sickness of like our, this capitalist idea that like we're the only goal is to make a shit ton of money, right? And not like you're just making it to make it because you want to and you want to share it. And if you make money while you're doing that, that's a bonus.
Well,
you guys were talking.
I think it gets into the idea of art too. Like my wife is in art education, and we have these talks all the time about like, people are always cutting back on arts and stuff like that. And at some point, like you get these adults who come out of the system not realizing that it's like a fundamental piece of being a human being, expression and being able to release through something artistic, whether that's drawing, painting, music, 3D sculpture, whatever it may be. I feel like that's an important piece of being a human and being on this planet, and to deny somebody of that, they come out with a different view of what those end products mean. I think, whether it's like you say, a Van Gogh type of thing, or you're like this super accomplished artist or you're nothing, or whether it's just like art doesn't mean anything, it's not worth anything. But there's kind of a twisted view, I think, sometimes about that. And to me, I think it's like, I would like to encourage everyone to do some sort of artistic expression, whatever moves you, but try something, and like anything else, you're gonna learn from it as you go and get better, but it's also going to be therapeutic.
Well, the irony of like those things getting cut back because people like they don't make money is like everything in our lives is influenced by art. Everything, like everything in our backgrounds, the clothes we're wearing, chairs we're sitting on, everything. Like if you took art out of like, you couldn't even remove it. But if you could, life would be horrible. And it's such a, like you said, it's such an important thing that it really does make life enjoyable, and encouraging people to, find that in themselves and express themselves in, some creative way. And I think that also, like, by extension, encourages people to share, right? Because if you're creating art because you feel a thing or you want to feel a thing, and you want other people to feel that thing, that promotes empathy, so that like if everyone was being creative, people would be more empathetic, which would, be pretty awesome.
And it's completely connected to everything. Like, it's problem solving at its basest form, I think. And like, again, in my day job and stuff, but I'm like supervising people in a potentially hazardous situation. I come into a shitstorm and have to like make a decision, and then that decision influences multiple other decisions. It's the same thing when I put paint on a canvas. That's a decision I made, and that influences all my decisions on down the line, and you have to be willing and like brave enough to like throw that down and then figure out the next one and realize that, well, if I had to go back a couple steps and change this, that's okay. Like, to me, all that stuff is influenced from art in my experience.
So we have a comment on the YouTube. He says, this is going back to the secrecy part. So I'd argue it could be imposter syndrome, that you're so afraid of whether it's your own standards, let alone others, that some are afraid of sharing because their own eye still sees flaws, and they're afraid of being judged for those.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to like the raw insecurity that somebody might have about their creation, right? Like that's a hard thing to overcome. And like, to me, I mean, that's something I struggled with forever, right? Like, especially with music, right? Like music's such a place where like it's such an easy place to like judge and like pass judgment on like a piece, right? Someone either likes it or they don't. Like music's not really a middling scenario, right? Someone connects immediately or it fucking is a total whiff and you have nothing, right? And so like, you know, getting through like that, like one of the best things I ever just like kind of allowed myself to do in like an artistic context is just like, just do it and like put it out there and like be okay with the fact that somebody like, and nobody's gonna like it, right? Literally nobody's gonna like it. That's fine. It doesn't matter because what you're doing is like you took a piece of you and you're holding it up. And like that's the part that the process, everything that comes before the presentation is the important part. Everything after the presentation is not something you have zero control over and shouldn't care about at all. Like you just need, that's the freedom aspect, right? And so like when people have these insecurities about it and they want to like withhold portions of it, they want to withhold technique, they want to do, it's like, you know, I think a lot of that comes from like not being able to like actually free themselves in that last stage, which is the presentation, is where you know, I love the idea that the term for that is like the death of the author, the death of the artist, right? And it's like you literally that is the end stage for you. You are dead by the time somebody sees that. You are irrelevant to this entire scene, right? And like it is somebody's interpretation, is somebody's gaze that is going to be what that art is, right? And so like there's no reason to care about it, there's no reason to protect it, there's no reason to feel any sort of way about it. You've done your part, right? Like you've done your job, move on, right? And that insecurity prevents people from doing that. I think Crumb said that in the chat and I think he's totally right. That imposter syndrome feeds that insecurity.
I feel like to add to that too is like, as an artist, I feel like really once you get to that point, once you get over that hurdle, because I can tell you plenty of times where I had not released art and things that I wasn't quite sure how people were going to see it. Oh, this guy's painting this and it looks like this. And yeah, you know, like I was too worried about other people's opinion, but I really honestly feel like once you get over that hurdle of really not giving a shit, you can really become what you're truly meant to be. Like ever since I've gotten over that hurdle, I've gotten to a completely different spot, and I'm comfortable with everything I produce because it's what my mind made. It's not what somebody else thought, or it's not to please somebody else. It's what my mind built. And you know, if there's anybody watching, I'm going to tell you, if you're at that hurdle, jump over that shit. Go do it. Just try, because I cannot stress that enough. That was my biggest hurdle for a long time. And that's why, I didn't make and I didn't make a big page or anything for, what I was producing or anything like that. I wanted to just have fun with what I was doing. And now I still have fun, but now I just appreciate my work so much that I want to share it with people because I'm confident in it. Barrio, what do you think, man?
Sorry, I was muted trying to unmute. So yeah, it's the whole you start out making something and you're like, all right, this is cool. I like it. I think it's cool. And then you post it and then people start commenting, oh man, that's awesome. And I'm like, well, I was just messing around with, plastic and paint and see what happens. And then, you get more and more people find your page or whatever. And then before you know it, you've got 20 or 30 people asking, when are you going to make more of these? So it's one of those where, where I was making and screwing around with stuff and I thought it was cool and I would show it to my kids and my wife and yeah, that's pretty neat. And then, before you know it, you're in the middle of production of wave 3. So it's one of those where you're like, man, I don't know if it's cool enough that people really like this. And then, you sell a couple pieces and then people post that it takes them back to when they were kids and they would collect both Star Wars and homies and they love looking at these things and they'll hold them forever and they'll put them in different different parts of the room, or they've got them set up in their office or whatever. And it's like, wow, I just started, with this just because I thought it was fun and I thought it was cool. But I mean, if people actually like this stuff and they, and they post it and they're happy and they're excited and you get comments with them, or, they're constantly putting your stuff on their pages and their stories or whatever. It's really humbling, because again, I'm just a Boba Fett fan who just likes collecting stuff. And now, and so it's an experience. And it does take a little shove, I think. It's like, when you were a kid and you didn't want to swim and they just threw you in the deep end. Sometimes you just gotta take that jump or take that leap. With me and the stupid pressure pot, man, I've had this thing since right after Christmas, and it wasn't only until last week or 2 weeks ago that I actually fired it up. And
so the same thing happened to me. Do you love it now?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Same thing happened. I got intimidated by it.
Yeah.
Right? It's scary. Yeah.
Pressure tools are scary, man. They're horrifying.
That's could be potentially an explosive device in your house if you don't know what you're doing. So turning on the compressor, you got to turn it on. Okay, you turn it on, you prime it, all this stuff. Now, I've been doing it for a couple of weeks now. I think I could come in here and do it, with my eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that whole intimidation, not knowing, the fear of the unknown. It's all that. But I mean, yeah, it's like Tragic was saying, you just got to do it.
Exactly.
You just got to do it. And then once you do it and you're comfortable with it, I don't know how I ever made anything without that stupid pressure pot.
Exactly, man. The difference so stark, and maybe nobody else can see it. Maybe they can't see. I'm going to cover it up with paint anyway, so maybe they don't see. But I did the first one. I still have the first thing I ever cast, right? So I have that thing, and then I have the first thing I pressure pot casted. Well, you got to do the mold first, but then once you get through the molding process, you've got that first piece of resin, and you look at the two things. And I didn't do the same thing, but they were similar enough. They're both Star Wars. They were similar enough, and I was like, "Fuck, man, why didn't I do this 6 months ago? What was I scared of?" Again, yes, it's a pressure tool. Do I have the right one? Is it hooked up? I got to go into this tool place where I never go. Maybe I'm going to go in to buy a Dremel bit, but even then I'm sort of like, I don't know, this isn't really my place. I'm not sort of a do-it-yourself wood shop guy. I'm sort of a guy who collects toys and hangs out and watches Marvel. So I feel uncomfortable. Then I go, I'm going to buy an air compressor. And of course the guys are all over you. They're like, "Hey, what do you need this for? Are you going to be doing some high quality painting?" And you're like, nah.
I don't make toys.
I'm pressure casting. Like, what's that? Oh, you're making jewelry for your wife, like resin jewelry. No. I'm making Star Wars figures in my basement. Huh? Okay. Yep, that's a new one. But you know what I mean? But then you get the damn thing home, you plug it in. I call my stepdad. I said, "Hey, I don't know. I'm worried about this. Come over, make sure I'm doing this right." I show him. He's like, "Yeah, you got it. What's your problem?" "I don't know. I don't do this stuff."
I don't know. It's just a bomb or something, dude. I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just intimidating. If it's something you've never done and you've just watched videos, and then you get, little tips and stuff until you actually do it. It's one of those things like, man, it's sitting in the corner collecting dust.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I better use it. I asked for all this Christmas money. I better go and actually put it to use.
Yeah, I struggled with learning to trust the regulator. I have 2 regulators on mine.
Which I
have one from the hose and then one on the device itself. And I'm
exactly.
like, I don't honestly, it's one of those things. Like, I'm so nervous with tools. Like I've been around like power tools that come from like a pretty blue collar family as a whole, like my whole life, been around these things. And I sit down with it every time I look at it. I'm like, "You are scary. You are." And then when the first time I did it, I was so nervous. I was stood 10 feet back, and I was just watching the gauge, looking for when it hit the bars that I needed. It needs 4 bars. And I was like, as soon as it hit that, I was like, "Okay, turn off the compressor." And just stood back, and I was like, "All right, it seems okay. This is cool." But now it's I just walk up, screw it on, do it, whatever. It's fine. It's cool. It's whatever. And the first time it was use the regulator to you do it all the way open and then you regulate back up. And I was like, nah, just flip the fucking valve and it goes. It's all good. Put a piece of cardboard over it so it doesn't splash and like call it a day. It's a weird process. It's so
It
like,
is.
the tools are scary. Pressure tools are scary. Every time someone asks a question, they're like, mine's leaking, I think. How do I fix it? And I was like, one, don't fucking touch it. Don't do anything with it, right? Like, first, don't. There's no reason to hurt yourself over like a leaking pressure pot. One, if you are not confident in figuring it out, don't. Two, get some soapy water, put it around the whole thing and see where it's leaking and then fix it. Like, it's not hard, but also it's scary, but it's not hard, but it's scary.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
We're
what are
making-
you guys using? Like 30 psi in there?
60.
60? Still, I mean, like,
It's
not
not
too
crazy.
far off from a tire on your
Yeah,
car.
yeah.
Right,
I mean,
true.
but you also see the tires blow up and they put them in the cages for semis, right? Like you fill a
Sure.
tire in a cage for a lot of things.
True.
I just want to add a little something to this topic. Well, and the other topic about the art and the fun. I think the constant thing that I'm hearing right now is to take advantage of the fun you get once you start doing the things. To surpass this hurdle of trying to figure what the other people is gonna think about the things you do and just jump over and start having fun with it. And hearing you guys talking about the pressure pot makes me think about this once again, because all the cool kids have pressure pots, but I don't have any because I don't have the space or either I don't know where to buy one. So I was talking to my wife and she was like, oh, we can check in Amazon or ask around for someone who knew where to find one. Here the scene of the creators is kind of secrecy too, so nobody is willing to tell me where to buy one. So my wife was saying to me, let's just have fun doing it. So we went and buy a second-hand cooking pressure pot and a little vacuum cleaner for the car. And we are trying to figure out how to connect these things to make a homemade pressure pot so I can make cool toys like the cool guys. But we're having a lot of fun trying to connect all these things together, just because what really matters is to keep doing the things, trying to get out those things out of my mind, having fun in the middle, and get to know people to chat with about it. Because in the end, and I usually say this, because sometimes it seems like when you start something like a hobby or like a new career project or just something you want to do, you get all these blunt punches about you need this, you need these tools, you need to buy this, you need to buy this brand of paint, you need to have this space, and most of those things just let you down because you start thinking, man, I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm lacking of this and I don't have the money for this, and that's I sometimes feel that that's what gets down most of the people who just want to have fun doing something or to share a hobby or to share some thoughts in a community, because you only need yourself and you're willing to do the things and someone around who supports you the way I think this community does with all the new people. I'm an art historian, and for a while I was a visual artist, like a museum visual artist, and I've been running for the last couple of years from all this theoretical thinking about art and all the secrecy about the art and all the concept people threw to the art nowadays. And every time you want to do something that it's not just you don't have the tools. Now they add this thing that you don't understand. You don't get the author, you don't get the meaning, you don't get the concept, you don't get the reflection of it. And man, that's just frustrating. And it seems to me that this whole community of the toy community is not just one that enjoys having fun, but it's also willing to talk about it and all this to take out all the secrecy and to share all the knowledge, because in the end it's all empathy. I feel very empathic with all of you, because you share honestly your thoughts and your feelings about all this stuff, because in the end you share the fun of it. No, it's just simple fun without context, without theory, without academic revisions, without technical precisions. It's just fun. And doesn't matter if you are afraid of the pressure pot, there's always somebody to say, just put some soap water around and give it a second and then try to fix the thing. Nobody blames you, or nobody just threw a rant over you because you don't know how to do this stuff. And well, I'll say it again, that's just priceless, and it's very honest, and it's very empathic, and it doesn't matter. I'm start to feel myself like some sort of derelict artist, because I don't have the right tools, but nobody seems to care that. At the end, it's just the thing you do, and if it's funny or if it's cool, and that's great.
There's like other ways you can approach it too. There's vibrating tables. I don't know if you build them or what, but like you basically, it like shakes the mold you just a little bit while it's curing to kind of like help the bubbles get to the top. You know, you can also just tap it or whatever. Like, yeah, it doesn't need to be. You don't need all the sexiest tools. Because I see this in like the digital art community too. People are like, oh, I just started drawing. What computer do I buy? What tablet do I buy? And like, just get a fucking pencil, bro. Like, if you don't know how to draw, tablet ain't gonna help you.
But and some of those limitations, like if you don't have the tools, can be really cool creative challenges, actually.
Right.
Yeah, and some amazing things come out of that, you know? So you got to embrace it.
Man, and in this space, like you can overcome, like you don't have to use a pressure pot. Like just get a really slow resin and it's the same, you get the same effect. Like it's like you just have to give a day to like doing it. Like it's all optional. It's just like it's cool to me that those limitations exist and like people find ways around them. And like, you know, some of my favorite people that do work on here use like they basically don't even cast. They're basically doing like clay one-offs. And they do clay one-offs and they're like, they paint them and like that's their whole bag. And I'm like, that's crazy. Because for me, I would never consider doing that. Like if I'm doing the clay is like that's the intermediary medium to like doing it, right? And it's like people just doing clay one-offs and like, yeah, this is cool. This is what I do. And I'm like, it's like crazy folk art. And I like I love it. Love it. I want to see more of it. Like there's no barrier to entry. You can go into any art store on earth. You can go into Kmart and buy I don't think Kmart exists anymore, but you can go to Target and like buy like a Crayola, like air dry clay and like make your thing. And like, you're done. Like that's it. And it's like, that's cool. If you have a good vision, if you're doing something that's expressive and interesting, done.
Oh shit. You just gave me the greatest idea. Shrinky dinks.
Yeah.
Oh, shrinky dinks. Yeah, dude.
A fucking card of shrinky dink.
Dude, shrinky dinks were the dopest. Why? Because you need colored pencils and fucking wax paper.
Nothing. It's just paper. Yeah.
It's nothing. And it was like, how cool was it to make a shrinky dink and like have that? And like that to me felt like a production process. You might as well have bought that at a store. Like by the time you add like whatever your like car that you drew or whatever, and it was this big. And
well, it tightens up and looks cool. You know, it looked really sharp where it was all messy when you did it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you don't need anything. And it's like, those are, to me, that's cool. It's like, that's, you know, like I'm a big, like black metal fan. Right. And there's so much like black metal that's made on like nothing. Right. Like, you know, like literally nothing. And like the community itself is like, that's whatever. But like so much of that material is made with like what we have offhand because we're like, we're broke people doing broke things, like, and that's like the whole thing. And it's like, it's really cool. That stuff to me is like, that's like I talked about it before on like the curve of like craftsmanship versus artistry, right? And like where do you land on that is like is irrelevant. It's all art within that. It's just like how do you measure like what people are doing, right? And like when you take a like zero craftsmanship approach or like a minimal craftsmanship approach and you go full artistry, like that's where that's the absolute juice to me, right? Like that is like what I want. I don't actually care about how you make it. I don't care about what the product is. I just want your raw interpretation of what you're feeling in a product, whatever that is. Like, and then I'm sold, right? I just want that, right? So
I was just saying, kind of in line with what Epoxy Crusader was saying, the tools don't really matter. A dope piece is a dope piece, but artists also can't be entitled if the success was creating. I think I might have just missed something in the context there. So if the object was to just make a neat idea, then sales can complicate that.
Yeah, it gets in their brain, right? They start thinking about the money or the success or whatever that is, and it gets in, and it's confusing. We're weirdly trained to like see that as a reward, where the reward was the thing, right?
Yeah.
And even that, it was the trip you were on, man. Like, why are you? The ending isn't even the finished product. That's just the ending of that phase. Because you're going to go somewhere else. Like we said earlier, you're going to switch colors or you're going to do whatever. Like, and we get tricked into thinking like, well, if somebody showers us with praise, then you've won. Well, you can make a really dope toy that nobody sees and no praise. That doesn't mean you lost. You know, like you're changing the joy in it. You're trading that for someone else's opinion. Why? You don't have to, right? It's the and Barry Aboba was saying that it was kind of on this for a second. It was like when you started putting it on Instagram, or a lot of us have said that, like when you start putting it out there, that's when you're just saying, okay, I did this thing. I think it's good. Now you guys tell me, and I'll run away. Right now, we're all humans. So we're going to look back at that Instagram feed and see like, oh, 25 likes, 35 likes. I guess that's really something cool. Or, you know, if your numbers are bigger than that or whatever, you know what I mean? But the truth of the matter is you thought it was cool enough to post in the first place, right? So you won already. It's already over. And then you guys were saying this, it just let somebody else make their decision on it, you know? And like, if you can grow from it, you take that, regardless of the reaction, you take that thing and you go, well, now that I did that, I'm going to see something different. A friend of mine sent me this picture. He's got a figure he's working on. It's a one-off, 101. And he took a motor from like a Happy Meal toy and he made it the head on this figure. And it was like, damn it, I got to start looking at Happy Meal cars now because that's a fucking great idea. You know what I saw? I was like, I love that so much. And I was like, there's only one, isn't there? He's like, yeah, there's only one. I use this, and this though. I was like, all right, maybe we can make another one. You know what I mean? Like I'll make one and then we can try going back and forth. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but the point is like he tripped onto that thing and he hasn't, you know, yet. I think it's good, man. What do you think? And I'm like, that's so good. I want to copy you now. So you go do something else and I'll start looking at car engines now because shit. How simple is that?
It you know, to completely add to that, but like it's kind of off topic a little bit, but so we've got this in so I'm located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we've got this place called McKay's. McKay's is it's like this mega used store. They bring toys in there, cards, comics, I mean anything from like Magic to old vinyls that you never see anywhere else unless you went there. I get a lot of my toys and stuff from there because it's so rare. Like you'll find Beanie Babies there that are still in the packaging. You'll find like Dr. Doom figures that were released in like when Fantastic Four first came out for the first movie of Fantastic Four when Dr. Doom made his presence. You find all those cool things. And like today, I found these two. And this was
Kylo and whatever that other one is, which is just awesome. I mean, that's
that one with the holes through it. That was the sickest thing I'd seen in days. I was like, that is the coolest. Man.
Again, like, fuck, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I gotta find a skull.
But like, now how am I gonna mold it? Like, this is gonna be a challenge. Somebody commented, I don't know who it was, but somebody commented and said they were like, good luck molding that. I was like, well, you know, okay.
2 parts and lots of rubber bands, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, it can be done.
So
It can be
but,
done.
that that whole idea, like I found that, and I paid $1 for it. Like all their used toys are $1,
Yeah.
and like I had so
That's
fun.
the promised land.
That's the
Well-
good. Yeah, you found a jewel, is what you
Yeah.
did.
Absolute jewel. Like my wife hates me so much, I swear, because I go there so often and I look at toys and I look at statues, and like you don't even want to know how many Dragon Ball Z statues I have, but it's a there's a lot. But I've came across so many cool things, like today I came across Mr. Freeze from the Batman versus Robin, which was I think in like what was it, 99 or 2000 or something like that, when the original Batman was in there. It was when Arnold was Mr. Freeze. Yeah. So I found that figure today, and I was like, oh man, I got to do something with this. Either I got to rip the wires off of it, or something, or but there's so many good things out there, and like adding that to your collection and building that into what you are trying to put off to other people for what you see and what you have the image of is really, really fucking sweet.
It's weird you say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say those thrift stores, if you're talking like Midwest and in the South, it's a whole different thing. Like out west here, we have like Goodwill stores and stuff like that, but it's a whole different thing to go into those thrift stores. I don't know if you guys have been to those type of places, but it's like mom and pop shop, and they got like stuff out of their garage sitting out there, and there's some really cool finds, and it's super cool people and stuff like that. You don't get that kind of experience out here. I kind of miss that.
Because
out here I
everybody's
used to just
figured
go
out
to the
commodify.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I used to go to the Goodwill. When I was like deep in photography, right? And I would find like just the most broken, busted ass photography equipment, right? Like old 35 millimeters with like broken lenses and like just horrible, and like use that for everything, right? Because that was like the cool. I have like this one. It's like it's a really old like Olympus. It was called a what was it? I can't remember. It's like a rangefinder, but it was like supposed to be hyper portable, and it has a fixed lens that like presses into the body, and it was like totally broken, and it shoots like garbage, and nothing comes out like correct at all. And I was like so stoked. I got it for like $1 because they're like, it's broken, and I was like, yes, that's okay, perfect, great. And like those sorts of things, like you don't like. I can't find that with toys around here. Like I'm in the Bay Area. Like the only things that come through, like there's only Goodwills. The only things that come through Goodwills are like basically clothes and like usable items. And I'm like, no, I don't want usable. Give me garbage, please. Thank you. Like I don't want the good stuff. But I had a comment on what Chicken Burger Disco was saying. The idea that like there's the social media aspect to it. So there's like this concept of like primary and secondary motivations, right? And like an affirmation and validation, right? And so primary of all of those, like primary validation is that you enjoy doing it, right? Where secondary validation is that you enjoy that other people enjoy doing it, right? And there's a lot of people that get fixated on the secondary motivation, and they do things to perform to their audience, right? And like that's selling out, in like the canonical sense, right? These are things that like the audience likes it, therefore you do it, right? Which is not, it's an interesting, it's just a light comment that there's like this idea that floats out there that these are two separate entities that can be maintained. You can get both, right? I like what I do, and I also like that other people like what I do, but without that primary motivation, like you're just shot creatively, like you're not doing it, in my opinion, at least.
You gotta take that seeing other people's stuff, right? Again, so Tragic has the skull torso that's with the holes in it. We all see that and go, I want to do that now, right?
Yes,
so like having that input makes you go like, shit, like open your brain to see some other things. So like it's weird because Instagram, which for whatever reason for toy community is the thing, right? I know there's other groups, Discord and things like that, but it seems like that's the focal point. Yeah. It's weird because the other ideas are there. There's reaction to your work is there. You putting your work out there is there. It's this weird circular thing. I spend a lot of time sometimes just like, the kids are watching TV or whatever, and I'm just scrolling through the feed, just like, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Every once in a while, you'll look a little bit deeper into somebody and you get into like, oh, I didn't know who this guy was. This is dope. Or somebody will have a conversation about something and you'll be like, man, I'm fascinated by this whole thing. And you go down that rabbit hole. So all that is exactly like, none of that I think is negative necessarily, right? Too much maybe, but these are all good things. It gets weird when you get into it, like you were saying, if you're trying to perform for it, or you're trying to create the energy that you want back, right? You're putting in more than you really should be for that kind of thing. That's where it starts to teeter into a strange place. My brain, I'm always trying to say, careful, right? Careful. You're not trying to be Instagram famous. What you're trying to do is make dumbass shit, and make that fun, because that's why you created this hobby. Be careful you don't slip down the slope. So like I make bootleg videos, right? Bootleg commercials. And folks have asked me, they say like, why is your stuff not on YouTube? Because it's easier for people to see it if it's on YouTube. Because I'm not trying to be YouTube famous. The minute I start doing that, I've changed what I'm trying. I'm only doing this because of toys. I want to hang with toy guys, and I want to make toy weird shit. If I put it on YouTube, suddenly I become a guy. I don't know. That's not what I want to do. So throw it on Instagram, run away, and then it's just there. And that's the place for this thing, and nowhere else, so that I can kind of keep it true to what I want to be. And even if, maybe I'm like putting it out there and I do want reaction to it, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't put it out there. Even though I'm doing that, I know I'm doing that for the community that is really this big, right? YouTube's billions of people. I don't even watch cable anymore. I watch YouTube. Yeah. Right? There's tons of people. But if I keep myself small and understand who I am as just a little guy making weird stuff in a huge pond, I can keep it honest and keep myself. And just like, yeah, that's why I do this.
Original.
Yeah, I just want to do toy junk. Like I don't want all that other stuff.
There's a guy kind of like, who's kind of in your vein, but he doesn't do toy stuff. It's Victor Berg. He does like all these like weird fucking videos. They're all like, a minute or less. And a lot of it's like more political. So he does like the just weird videos, but kind of centered around current events and politics. There's one I have saved that it's like at a Trump rally, and he's playing this, this like, I think it's a Queen song from like the 70s or something, laid over like this footage of Trump dancing and then pointing at this guy in the back. I think it's just spliced footage, but it's so bizarre and hilarious. So but I don't think he exists on YouTube. I think he only is on Instagram for like the same reason you are, that like kind of, that's just the medium that he chose, and there's no reason to go anywhere else.
That idea of either taking footage or disorienting it with like some sort of sound or whatever, honestly, it's what I'm fascinated by. I tell the story to folks all the time that when I make my wife go, ew, that's when I know I've done something right. She says, I don't like that. But to use politics for a second, once upon a time when the Iraq war started, there were some guys out protesting. And my friends and I, for whatever reason, we decided we were going to go film the protesters. In the midst of the protesting thing happening, they got into a skirmish between anti-protesters and protesters, but it wasn't over the actual thing they were protesting. It was about where they were standing, proximity of the sign. It had nothing to do, like maybe that's premeditated. Long story short, we filmed this dumb stuff. We're like, we don't know what to do with it, but it's really weird. I take it home. I start editing it up a little bit, just rearranging it a little bit. And then I put like, I don't remember if it was God Bless America or something else underneath it, right? And you got the voices. So you can hear they're arguing about cardboard, right? They're not arguing about anything. And like, you put it together, and I think it was like 40 seconds, something like that. You put it together and you watch it. And then I just remember standing in my apartment next to my buddy, and we're laughing our asses off and going like, I don't know what we just did, but I want to do that for the rest of my life. Whatever that was, I'm doing that. So how do we find another rally or another weirdo or something that we can put some music over? And then, you know what I mean? So it's just like when we make the toy or we find the right paint and you put that right paint line on there, it's that, like, I forget, my mom, she said something like, it's bliss or something like that. Sometime I was telling her about that. She was just saying, that's what it is, son. That's what you're experiencing. And she's like, don't forget, that's how you got it. You got it from that, not from the reaction, from the moment. And she's like, that's what you're trying to do. So like me, every video I make, I'm trying to repeat sitting in my apartment with my buddy and putting God Bless America or whatever over some dudes fighting over cardboard and the distance between two pieces of cardboard. And that, like, you know what I mean? It's just, that's super, like, it's a weird but grounding place to be. So
I'm gonna go back to the list of topics, because we, in a way, we've kind of lightly covered a lot of the things that are on this list. So I'm gonna go down toward the bottom. There's a couple of things. So criticism, pointless, constructive, and blind optimism are different criticisms, I guess, positive and negative, and what is it, pointless, constructive, blind optimism. Are they prevalent in the community that you've noticed? And what would be the most frequent you've observed, and pros and cons of all that?
I have immediate thoughts on that one. So I think probably the best thing that I ever got from like art school or a formal art education was having to stand in front of a room and get critiqued. I think that was like literally hardened my entire being against like anyone saying anything about anything that I've ever done. Just having someone tear your shit apart live in front of the person who's going to give you the fucking grade, that's going to give you the credits to let you get out of that fucking hellhole, right? Like that is like the whole thing, right? And like having done that, nobody can say anything bad about my stuff, and I won't even care. I appreciate any bad negative comments. I actually like negative comments better because that means that I'm not observing something about what I'm doing in a way that other people are, right? I only have one fixed perspective. I can't control the rest of it, right? So like somebody else coming into it, oh, I didn't get that from your work. I don't interpret that. I don't see this working. This didn't work. This didn't work, but this worked well. Those help. Those, I think that's great. It doesn't even have to be constructively phrased. Like if somebody tells me something, that's awesome. I think in the community, what I see a lot, and honestly, it's kind of funny because I think in the bootleg community, people actually don't care about things that are totally scuffed, right? Like I don't care. I honestly, like, I use a pressure pot. Sometimes things don't go super right. There's like a bubble in the shoulder of something, and I'm like, well, I think it still looks cool. The colorway is sick. It glows. It's awesome. Everything about it's still top notch, right? But like what I see most of all is like people just putting like, you know, you get a fire emoji. That's awesome. Keep it up. This is great. Awesome stuff. And I don't want to discourage anyone from commenting on that, but that is like worthless. Like it doesn't, like I've already like, I've decided it was like we were just talking about, right? I already decided it was good enough for me to show you. Like you saying it's great is like, I thank you, but that does nothing for me. Tell me it's bad and I can work on something if you really think that, if I'm not seeing something, right? If there's something I'm explicitly missing, tell me that. Otherwise, like tell me material, like concrete suggestions on like process are nice. As a whole, I think blind optimism is a good phrase for it. Like it's very, there's a lot of like, this is awesome, keep it up. And it's like, cool, thanks. Like there's nothing to do with that. You have nothing forward to reach with that.
Like going back to art school critiques, it's the same way. Like I always used to hate when people would just be like, well, I really liked how it was green, you know, and it's like, that doesn't help me as an artist, you know.
Yep.
But you know, in the Instagram world, I mean, there is something to be said for a compliment. If someone's trying to offer you a compliment, that's a little different than critiques. So you know, I think there's a little bit of room for both, but I understand where you're coming from for sure.
it's not exactly the same, but so you made me think of something, which was perspective, right? The example I'm going to use is going to seem silly, but when I go see Endgame, I have a different reaction to it because I'm a Marvel nerd than my friends go see that same movie, right? My friends go see that movie and they're like, yeah, they punched for 4 hours. It was a lot of punching, right? That's what they saw. And I'm like, dude, man, he says on your left. Do you not get what the fuck just happened? Like all the lines in this movie are repeated lines from other movies. It's all been remixed and given back to you in this way that's joyful. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. They beat up the purple guy And so sometimes what happens is the critique is coming from a place where there's no concept of the thing that you provided, right? It's coming from you from somewhere, right? People are seeing it, and what the fuck are you on about? Like, why is there a big this, that, or the other, right? Why are you doing that? And so the reaction sometimes where people say something positive, I'm almost shocked at, because like, how could you possibly, like, I like that you liked it. Cool. That's cool. That fills up the fun points. But do you know what I was doing? Or is this like the Marvel movie where you just saw a bunch of guys punching each other for a while and you're like, I like toys. I saw your thing. I don't know if it's cool or not. Or I liked it, but I don't know what you're trying to say. I was talking to my friend the other day and I said, how do you think about level setting? Showing somebody the opening of the door. Because what you do is you start working and you're so far down the road, no one's been with you on the journey. So when they see the thing you come up with, how do you explain to them, oh, it comes from back here. You had to watch Iron Man to get to him snapping, right? You had to know the length of that whole thing to truly get what's going on here and why he snaps, not Steve, right? This is important in the arc of a character here. And when I provide something to people, you know, I'm going to provide a big muscle arm. I mean, what the fuck is this, right? Why? And people go like, that's really cool. Like, so I don't know how to explain to them where that's coming from. And part of me goes, it doesn't matter, right? Because millions of people pay to watch Endgame, right? So 5 people are going to watch my thing and like it. And it doesn't matter that they know where that came from. But part of me also wants me to try to explain to them how you get to the journey of going, here's a muscle arm, here's why it's called that, here's all the things that went to that. But then I go, whatever, it's fun. it's a fucking muscle arm. What difference does it make? You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I thought your muscle arm was a reference to like that Predator scene where it's like, Dylan, you son of a bitch.
That's a cool reference. That's a cool reference.
But
No,
I can't tell you what it is. That's the reality of it. I have no fucking idea why I'm doing that, except for every time I do it, I'm like, that shit makes me laugh. Like, you know what I mean? So there's no reason, but like, I don't know. So
I thought it was the what is it, Centennial arm from Rick and Morty, where Morty gets the big juicy arm.
I've never seen that. See, so like, this is
man.
exactly what I'm talking about. So like the perspective on a thing is just like, somebody said something to me the other day. They were saying, they go, you know, you have a lot of Monty Python influences. So I never really watched very much Monty Python. So that's awesome. But I don't know what you're talking about. So cool. I should probably go watch some of that shit. So I'd probably be embarrassed. You know what I mean? Go like, oh, I did a really bad job of that. But that's exactly what I'm saying is like the perspective is so weird. Like everybody's bringing their own thing to it. So when they do like it, I'm almost shocked when people do. And I'm like, all right, cool, man. I take those cool, weird points. So
you would be a big fan of Terry Gilliam, man. You should definitely check it out.
Right on. That's what I'm like. Okay, I'll write some of this down. And then people are like, how have you gotten to where you are, you know, life-wise, having not seen that? I'm like, I remember my dad watching some stuff when I was a kid, but it was mixed in with Benny Hill, you know? So like Benny Hill's just, I only know one thing. It's like ladies with shirts off running around to fast music, right? That's like, like that's all I know about it. But I think there were funny fake ads, and I think there were lots of these things, and it seeped in, you know, and you don't know it's there, and you're just drawing on a resource that's not there anymore. And maybe that's the same thing. Like the perspective is all those things that pour in to create the weird creation that you create, right? You go to a thrift stop that's local to your area, like Tragic was saying, and it supplies him with the goodies. He starts to reconstruct, and then he creates this thing out of it. That then becomes his ethos is now built. His way of being is built out of the source material. So like me or anybody else, our source material is built out of our weird, whatever we're thinking of. But when somebody sees it, they don't know. They brought all their own to that same party, and they're going like, oh, I see, you know, whatever with that thing. So anyway, I don't know. It's fucking wild to just hear just a couple things, right? and go like, oh yeah, none of that. I don't know. You know? So
I was gonna say too though, like some of the guy like Neo on here, Neostalgia, and then like Kerfloss demonstrate the process of creating the thing as well, and that becomes sort of that you're like on the journey with them, you know, and it's it makes the end product that much more special or interesting because you've kind of like you almost feel like you participated in it on the way up there, you know. And I myself, I feel like that's like you guys are brave for sharing that that stuff out there, you know. It's like you're showing warts and all, man. It's like, here I am, this is what I'm doing. And that's a bold move, but it's for me as a viewer super cool and super interesting, and it makes it a special experience for me too, you know.
But it just reflects back on my mentality. Like I said earlier, I'm really fascinated with like behind the scenes, essentially, right? How does this work? How did you get to this point? So that's just like a natural expression of just how my mind operates.
it's amazing. Let me put it that way. It's freaking blowing all of our minds. So
I kind of agree with all of you, but I just have like a couple of questions, mostly because of what Chicken Burger Disco was saying about going to see Endgame. I'm a huge Marvel fan. Because I have all these discussions with my friends all the time about being a nerd in terms of what. Because if I go to see Endgame, I can tell the 100 mistakes they took off from the comic book, just for saying. And what I'm trying to phrase on this is it really necessary to have the context or the reference of the things to get the things? In one way, it doesn't seems to be needed because you just put the thing out there and it's cool, or it isn't. It just, you don't need other opinion than that. But as Dead and Strawberry said, sometimes this journey of going through with the artist and knowing all the context and life achievements of the people who do this or that makes you more empathic to the thing you're looking at. So I constantly have this problem because my wife doesn't know a thing about pop culture and comics and video games and all the things I drink from. So every time I show her something I'm doing, she's like, "Oh, it's nice, it's cute, it's cool," but I feel like it doesn't express the whole thing I'm trying to put on the object itself.
Sounds like my wife.
I think that's such a great question because like there is this huge disconnect. Like you can never expect the audience to actually have full context on anything ever, right? And like there's some people who are going to have more and like get more out of it, but like, you know, I think about like stuff that I've done, right? Like I have like the Brain Genius, right? Brain Genius is like, it's a stupid skull sculpt with like a bad brain sculpt. Like it's just, it's nothing. It's a little guy. He's just got a little guy. His brain's exposed. But to me, like I came into the sculpt, right? Like, and this is like, I struggle. I go back and forth all the time. Like, do you release an artist statement? Like there's art, you go into a museum and there's a statement next to every piece, right? That's interesting. That provides immediate context into those things. But like, you know, people bought hella of them, right? And they're cool. And I've said nothing about it. And like, to me, like I started that sculpt, I'm like, this is a treatise on like the futility of learning and the futility of like information and like trying to be like a logical person and operating in like good logical faith throughout your life and like being good at doing that. And it's like, but it's ultimately worthless because you're gonna fucking die anyways, right? Like that's the whole thing. Like to me, like there's a whole thing. I could write a fucking essay on it, right? But like I sell it as it's a hunk of plastic. It's a little stupid skull, right? And like nobody has that context, right? Like nobody has a context of those things. But people like them. People enjoy them for the form. And like I almost enjoy that there's like a piece of context that is like that I get to hold on to, that I'm like, I know why I made it. Maybe you can interpret it that way. And I hope that you do. But like, we'll see, right? Like you talk to me about, you know, like say something if you actually think that way about it. Like otherwise it's just a piece of plastic, right? It's whatever.
What's cool
very
is
interesting.
what's cool is if someone took it and remixed it, right? So they take their whole thing and they go like, oh, I really liked that, but I'm going to add to it. You know, so they take the brain and they go, well, I'm going to add an abdomen and I'm going to add legs and then I'm going to add arm. And then it turns into this whole other thing. And you can go like, yeah. You know, and like that reward, that's cool.
Yep. No, I love that. I love all. It's like the context is just so hard. It's like why like you don't get the full context. You see, like I'll go back to Pollock, right? You don't get the context of like what Jackson Pollock was experiencing, right? But what you do see are like beer can rings and like cigarette ashes, and you're like, well, this is a dude. He's sitting in a fucking barn and like just getting angry at a canvas and drinking and smoking and being angry at a canvas. And you're like, that's, you know, like that's enough, right? That's enough to get you through to the point of like accepting what that art is, what that is at like an expression level. And then from there, like, yeah, you can go and learn about his life and see what's going on, right? Why he's like that. But like as a whole, like there just needs to be like something there that people latch onto. The form needs to be something that people latch onto. And then from there, everyone else can figure out everything. Like it doesn't matter as long as the form actually brings people in.
It's cool that it's both, right? It's you can get it, you can get deep into it, or you can surface level it. And either way, if it jams for you, it jams for you. That's cool, you know.
Yep. 100%.
Crumbs is saying that it can help. I'm assuming we're talking the context. The One Trick Pony, Ice Cream Castle, Armando 4-Up from a canceled micro line, or Marquilius making an all green, non-articulating Gamoran guard where he's from Spain is very culturally relevant. Best part of artist interviews for me is hearing context from the artist, even if it's to make it a cool thing.
Yeah.
So
what was it? The
inner story of like what you were saying, Cody.
Yeah, there was like what is it? I think it's maybe Trash Joy, the little melty figure. Like I had no idea what that was. Apparently it's an old D&D mini that was like unchanged through like several. It's the only like unchanged. Yes, exactly that guy. Right, precisely. There's like a whole story to it. I fucking love that figure from the second I saw it, and I had no idea. I had no context. I was like, that's just the dopest little melt man I've ever seen, right? But it's apparently like it's got this like essentially 40-year legacy of like being just like it like all this stuff behind it. No idea. It makes it cooler knowing, but I thought it was great to begin with, right?
I was listening to Mallow Toys. She was talking about why she does stuff with the creature from Black Lagoon. And part of what she was explaining, she thought it was, you know, it's a dope character, right? So I'm going to work on that. But also that costume design was done by a woman. So because it was done by a woman and that, you know, she was kind of written out of history, it's kind of like became part of her thing. Like, fuck you, I'm taking it back, you know? And I'm like, so you just changed the way I looked at everything I saw of hers. I thought that stuff's great. That stuff's great. Now, when I see it, I go, not only is it great, I kind of like the story too. Yeah. You know, you got me. Now I'm even more interested, I guess. I'm going to have to buy one of these fuckers. You know what I mean? Stuff. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. And cards are nuts, right? Or cards are nuts.
Yeah.
So like there's that too. And me, I like to open things. So like when those kind of things happen, I got to buy maybe one to display and then one to open. And I hate that whole mentality. So, but what are you going to do? You know, you want to respect it either way. So.
Yeah.
Same here.
Or be really careful and try to get it out of the blister really easy or something. So
I feel like part of it too is like, you know, when you create something like, you know, I talked to my son about this. I mean, he's 4 years old. So his imagination is just, I mean, it's crazy. Like, you know, I looked at him and I said, so what's his name? Or what's his name? And then we kind of brainstorm and we come off of kind of something I have in my mind and something off of his mind. And we put that together. And then on top of that, I ask him, you know, I've got the Dremel tool, I'm cutting this dinosaur's head off, and, you know, we're completely getting, you know, balls deep into it. And, you know, I'm asking about it. I said, where does he come from? You know, what does he do? Is he the leader? Is he the guy? Oh man, he'd be obsessed with it. But he you know, he's really he's so creative, and unfortunately I never had an outlet when I was younger to be able to channel it out. I feel like I probably would have went in a lot different direction in my life if I would have had these things. And with him being able to be as creative as he is and come up with these little stories and talk with me and yeah, dad, that's great, I love that. And from this different planet, putting a story behind what you create is, I feel like, part of the fun in it too. And I mean, honestly, think about it. You could write your own story. You could do your own comic if you really wanted to. It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Have you seen this?
I have not.
Barbarian Rage.
Okay, so Scott Cherry, Barbarian Rage. He's a resin artist. He does like he's really cool, like gruesome type stuff. And he right now he has, I think it's a 1-of-1, but the card back is fucking resin, and then it's sculpted, and then there's a Gamorrean guard and Ram Man. Anyway, he did a comic. This is the first issue where instead of it being drawn, it's figures he made, man.
No way.
It's killer, dude. It's killer.
So he wrote a story. Well, this is part of the story anyway, episode 1. And it's with the figures. Like, what the fuck is that? That's so insane. Like, so like when I saw this, I have to buy that. That's super cool.
Like I've been kicking around that like so much. Like I had them all lined up on my table and I'm like looking at them and I'm like, man, this could really be something cool. Like, I've never sketched any comics. I've never been into any type of dialogue like that. Like I've never done it. So I don't know a goddamn thing about it. But I tell you what, there's potential.
Yeah, man. I don't know anybody else that's ever done that, but that's the same idea as me going, I'm going to set my figures up and pretend they're talking. Right? What the hell is that? Like, that's some 3-year-old shit right there. What are you even doing? But I gotta, for whatever reason, there's something about that I just like, you tap back into being a kid again, like you're saying. When you're like that, and the trick is to not lose it, I guess. And I'm guessing nobody here has lost it. That's why we're all sitting here on a conference call talking about this junk. We haven't lost any of that. For some reason, they didn't beat it out of us yet, right? We're going to work. We're still doing our job. We're still functioning. But part of that brain is still over here going, yeah, my toys are on the shelf. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can yell at me all you want, Mr. Boss Man. But part of me's still there. You don't get that part anymore. And that's the trick, man. Like, I have 2 daughters, and throw all the clay I can at them, all the crayons, all the markers. You need a new sketch pad? You get a new sketch pad. Like, it's not a question about, well, did you earn it or no, not with those things. Those things just, you get them, and fortunately for my daughters, they're never taken advantage of it. They're not sitting up in their room with like 40 blank, sketchbooks because they like to hoard or something like that. They're drawing through everything, every single one of them, and just creating all the time. And that's, I don't know why it didn't get beat out of me. But yeah, the thing you got to do is protect it, man, and keep him so he can find a way to always be like that. So that I think it helps you as an adult. It just gives you the ability to find something. Like me, like I said, like COVID, you're locked in your house. I don't know. I kind of like being in the house anyway, but the minute you tell me I have to stay, that changes things. It suddenly like puts a weight on you that you didn't have before. And you feel like, fuck.
Yeah. I've got 2 kids right now. I've got another one that's coming on the way. So like, I'm hoping, I mean, either way, boy or girl, it doesn't matter, but I'm hoping that they are just as creative as my son is, because he is, it's just like, it's a different part of me that I've, it's like, man, I wish I would have tapped into that as a kid. And it's like, that it's kind of given me that, weight, like that super energy to really like dive into this. And it's a huge pushing factor. I don't know if anyone else has kids or whatnot, but with I think it was what is it? Death and Strawberries. You've got kids, so I mean, you can say that. I mean, probably a little bit of that rubs off on you in a way to, you're designing, you're thinking, your mental thoughts and what you're producing, and you want to make them happy. I mean, I want to see my son smile with something I make. I mean, this guy here, I made him, we put a tail on him. I mean, he was this is his favorite one, his absolute favorite one, besides Brachio Man. Brachio Man he made that himself. We'll just, but he loves this guy. And it's just like, we made this, and he's so infatuated with it. And it's like, I was able to give that to him, and, it was really fun, a lot of fun. I mean, Death and Strawberries. I mean, what's your, for kids interaction? I mean, what do you bring into all that?
Well, my kids brought me back into all of this. I mean, like I can't say like I gave up on toys, but I pursued another career, right, outside of being creative. And really, I like Epoxy Crusader and I were talking about this earlier, but like I dedicate a lot of my life, a lot of time to that career. And but they're getting to that, the kids are getting to that age where like they really enjoy playing and like pretending and all that jazz. And they found some of my GI Joes, and then it was like this thing like, let's play GI Joes, and they always want me to come play with them, and the more I did that, like the more fun I had just being creative and like, and then it's like, oh, I could get you some other stuff. Like I could do that. And and then I come back to being a kid where it's like, well, we could make a little like couple structures here and like, build that, and I could create that. And it like got that creative thing going again. And that's really, really what got me back into like staring at all of you guys' posts and stuff, and like trying to be creative again. So I mean, yeah, for sure. And we're the same way. We give them everything that we can, clay, pencils, pens, whatever. And it's super cool to watch what that comes out of there, like just something you'd never imagine. I hope that doesn't die. I hope that they can continue doing that too.
There's a lot of interesting, so I'm full of quotes and aphorisms, and I feel like I use them too much, but there's like one that I heard a long time ago from someone else that I was like in a drawing class with, and they were like we basically said like it was some quote about how an artist needs to be, it like walks a precarious line between like observing and like understanding themselves and their art and losing the childlike innocence of actually just creating, right? And like I feel like that's such an important thing, like that when like you're actually like working on a craft and working on like a thing, it's really difficult to not like introspect too much and not actually work towards like work away from your innate ability to just create as like a person, right? Like you have to actually be very careful to not break that. Because in the other side of that is that you look at someone like Picasso, right? And everybody understands Picasso as this like interesting cubism like artist, right? He's a cubist artist, like all these things that it's a very unique style that he has, right? But his whole entire body of work was basically his attempt to re-experience what it was like to create art as a child, right? Like he was a very accomplished, very realistic artist like through his early 20s, and then he turned around and was like, this is the opposite. This is not what creating is. This is not what art is. This is not how I want to create, right? And the rest of his life was spent trying to reattempt and remove back to the childlike innocence of just creating, like expressing how you see and how you feel, right? And like it takes an entire lifetime to get back to there, right? It took like all of that work, all of what we experience as Picasso, right? Everything that anyone knows by Picasso is like him in the midst of trying to actually get there, right? And like it's interesting, like it's almost impossible to not, I think it's impossible to not lose it a bit, right? Like through even when I was in art school, right, I felt like I was creating less expressive work because I was actually like forced to, because I was working so much to actually get to a point where I was doing these things, right? And then like you immediately get a job. I work as a software engineer. I never even used my arts degree. I went straight into like software engineering out of that, right? And like I'm, you know, in like which is a creative field. Like I feel like it's a very creative field to work in, but not in the same way that's like expressively creative, right? It's creative in like a technical sense, right? And like, you know, you move through all those and like you get to a point where like, you know, I was, you know, probably 5-6 years ago where I was like, I am like creatively dead. I have died as like a creative individual. I do not produce. I do not think in ways that facilitate production. I don't feel like I'm expressing correctly. And like, it was like a whole, like, it's a tower moment, right? Like a tarot tower, right? Like the collapse and the rebuild, right? Where you have to actually understand, like, I'm not myself anymore in a creative sense. And if you value that, that's a very important thing to understand, right? And I don't have kids, right? Like but like this, like the part of trying to re-experience like the childhood aspect of just creating, right? Like getting Legos, just building something. Like it doesn't matter what it is, it's just doing that. And it's hard to imagine like now today, if I just had like a pile of Legos in front of me, like what would that be, right? How do you actually get to that point? But it's interesting once you start like experiencing material and working with it, like clay. I can sit with monster clay and I can make, you know, 10 different figures in a night, right? I can just sit there and go through shape, form, and be like, this is neat, and then crunch it into a ball and start over and over again. And it's like that ability to express is very important, and like not even just important, it's fucking vital to like the creative life of like an individual. And like it's hard to find, like clay is a great medium for it. Some people love drawing, but these simple mediums that allow you to like very immediately render are like so important to that. But it's interesting, just the talk of like children reigniting creativity, and the idea that like the whole aspect of creativity that I think is important is like the idea that there's a childlike innocence to it that you have to like either maintain or rediscover to actually get to that. So
Absolutely.
This theme of the maker movement, circling back to like kind of spawning out of childlike creativity, is like a good kind of way to tie this all off for tonight. And we've had a couple people had to leave, and we're at 2.5 hours. So do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, I do want to add in before anyone else leaves. So I talked to Mr. Bluntman. We are going to, well, I'm not quite sure if he's going to be a part of it yet, but what I want to do, so previously I've had past talk shows similar like this, but it was not for art and not for really honestly what I loved. But what I want to do is I would like to bring each one of you onto the show and talk to you guys. Really kind of figure out who you are. I don't know you guys yet. I really want to dig deep. I want to figure out where the hell you guys are from, what you're doing, why you're doing it. All the nicks and crannies, I want to know it. So I really hope that, you guys are interested in coming on and doing something like that. I think it'd be really good for the community. But for this show tonight, this show was awesome, man. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it was a pleasure meeting all you guys. And I honestly really couldn't be more thankful to be surrounded by such talented individuals with such great minds. I appreciate all you guys, definitely.
Hell yeah,
Seconded.
man.
Yeah, it's been I've been very nomadic in my adult life, and this is probably the first return to being surrounded by people that are equally creative. So it's been very refreshing to have that.
Oh yeah.
I love this. This is how you build. This is how you grow and sustain like a healthy artist community. And I think that those are lacking. And scenes, to me, scenes are death, right? When you have a scene that's defined, like that is the end stage of your creative endeavors in that area, right? It becomes a competition. And I think this sector of art has definitely avoided like actually being a scene by like definition. They're independent creators that enjoy each other's work, and like that is like it's wholesome and it's true and it's honest, and that is like a really beautiful and pure thing that you don't see every day. And like it's awesome. All of you
Keep
are
it
awesome.
messy.
Keep it messy, keep it ruined, keep it fucking I mean absolutely like just completely destroyed, blown out garbage. Like I love it. Just do whatever you want to do and like put it on Instagram and I'll like it, dude. I actually vibe on everything. So it's great. It's all great stuff.
Chicken Death, got anything to like toss in here at the end, or you guys good?
It's been fun, man. Thanks for having me. I mean, it's awesome. So
Same, yeah. And I really have to shout out to Crumbs for starting to build this, and bring us kind of together and force me anyway out of my shell, start talking about things and sharing some stuff. So, I really appreciate that. And I too feel like this is one of those weird, like, I haven't had this kind of creative discussion thing with people in years, and it's super inspiring. And I really appreciate all you guys being so helpful and sharing your thoughts and tips and tricks and all that stuff. So appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. So for if any of you guys aren't part of it, anybody who watches this later, there is now a Discord for the indie toy makers and fans. We're still trying to work on getting the link out where everyone can find them. I have a link on, it's like convoluted. If you go to my Instagram and then go to my bio link, and there's a panel there. But I've encouraged all you guys to grab the link, put it wherever you want, share it. So, feel free to join. Someone can invite you if you need to, or whatever, or share the link, get in and share the link with other people that you think would be interested in just this kind of community. So I feel like it's a pretty good way to end, unless anybody's got any additional comments or thoughts. Awesome. It's great chatting with you guys. It's been a really awesome conversation tonight, and I'm glad we could get so many people on. That was really nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Later, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Later, everyone. Thanks, you guys.